The quiet before dawn lay heavy on Winterfell, a hush so complete that even the ravens seemed to hold their breath beneath slate-colored eaves. A pearly mist curled through the shattered gate where once stout ironwood doors had stood, and in its folds Theon Greyjoy thought he heard the groan of ghosts. They were not the restless dead of legend, he told himself, but living memories. Hall boys he had bested at swordplay, maids who had laughed at his jests. Maester Luwin bent low beneath his tower's weight of learning. He knew each face. It was the others, the iron-born faces, the gruff, salt-stiff men loyal to him by half a thread, whose names slipped away like scales beneath his fingers. He could not sleep. Theon had lain awake through the long black hours, feeling the stones beneath his pallet turn colder with every heartbeat. Even the furs across his shoulders brought no warmth. The weight he felt was not winter's chill but shame, dense as chainmail. 2 boys dead, charred beyond all recognition, hoisted for the wolves to howl at. Bran the broken, little Rickon chasing him on bent legs. He had watched them grow, had lifted Bran to the saddle, had carried Rickon to bed when he dozed over supper. The old gods bore witness, and the new, what Theon had ordered, could never be unwrought. Yet it was a lie. In the darkest hour, truth gnawed at him more cruelly than any memory of dead boys. They were not Bran and Rickon who smoldered on those hooks. It had been a miller's sons, nameless, small of limb, plucked from their bed to vouch for a prince's vanity, and Theon had shut his eyes as the sparks rose to the heavens. He heard their mother's shrieks still, the deep moan of the miller when he found his boy's clothes scattered like rags upon the hearth. No prayer to the drowned god could wash that guilt from Theon's skin. And why should a god of waves answer in this frozen place? Winterfell was built of Northman pride and stark honor he had traded for ironborn fear. Theon knew now. Fear bowed more easily than honor, but it stood ready to devour its master in turn. Every man under his command whispered about Ramsay Snow, the bastard of Bolton, whose banners approached from the east. Victors, they said, took the spoils. Bastards took flayed skin. Theon had dreamed of that bastard, heavy-handed, pitiless, dreamed of flensing knives slipping beneath his nails. He woke choking on his own bile, certain Ramsay would carve his sins into him until a new name came screaming from his throat. Reek, the dream spat at him. Reek, it rhymes with freak. He could have ridden at once for Deepwood Motte or Moat Cailin, dragged whatever loyalty remained by the hair behind him, but he knew Asha would scorn him, that his father would call him weak, and Theon could no longer keep to the lie. So as dawn bled pale rose over the ruins, he rose and dressed alone. No retainers stoked his brazier, no women warmed his bed. He donned the black doublet embroidered with the silver kraken his father had sent, suddenly obscene upon these northern stones, and walked out beneath the yard's raw quiet. The burned corpses still hung at the gate. He could not look at them. Instead, Theon climbed the broken steps to Maester Luwin's tower. The long climb left his heart hammering, lungs aflame. When he rapped upon the oaken door, he heard the old man's tired croak. "My prince," Luwin called, though his voice carried no deference now, only the rasp of sleepless nights spent in chains of doubt and sorrow. Theon pushed inside. The tower smelled of parchment and tallow and something else. Despair so thick it was nearly physical. Luwin sat bent over the weirwood table, ink blotting a fresh raven scroll. His chain links whispered as he turned. "I must send a message," Theon said, and it seemed a stranger's voice echoed from his throat. "What message?" The maester's eyes were a maelstrom of grief and condemnation. "And to whom? The world already knows you for a kinslayer." "Not kinslayer, liar," Theon whispered, and the word felt like a thrown dagger lodging in his own breast. He took a step forward. "Maester, Bran and Rickon live." The quill slipped from Luwin's trembling fingers. Ink splattered like spilled blood across the parchment. "You burned them," the maester said flatly. "Do you mock me?" Theon shook his head, hair falling loose about his jaw. "I burned boys, but not the Stark boys. I could not find them when they fled the crypts. Those 2 were Miller's sons, passed off as..." He choked. "Passed off as proof of my rule." Silence pressed in. Outside, A raven cried as if hearing the confession. You kept this secret while sewing their bodies into wolf pelts, Luwin said. No voice remained in him but dust. You let their parents search the embers for a sign. I thought. Theon swallowed the shard of pride. I thought the North would fear me more if it believed I'd slain my wards. Fear was all I had. And now Ramsay Snow marches. Fear enough for any man. Theon drew a ragged breath. I will send word to Robb Stark, the truth. Bran and Rickon live. If Ramsay flays me, at least the Starks may reclaim their seat unbroken. For the first time in days, a flicker lit Luwin's gaze. Painful hope. And where are the boys? I know not, Theon admitted. Hidden on their road with those wildling giants, Osha and that stable boy Hodder. Somewhere in these woods. Then your message matters little, Luwin said, though a tremor spoiled his stern tone. Yet perhaps it grants them a chance. The maester stood with care, shoulders cracking. He took fresh parchment and smoothed it with wrinkled hands. Tell me your words, Prince Theon. Prince. The title scraped like iron on ice. Theon set palms upon the desk, leaning into the dawn's wan light. Write this. To Robb Stark, King in the North, from Theon Greyjoy held in Winterfell. Bran and Rickon your brothers yet breathe. I confess to murdering 2 innocents in their stead. Ramsay Snow comes against the castle. I offer what aid I can, though you may deem none of it enough. If I live, my life is yours to claim. If I die, know it was not wholly without honor. He paused, throat raw. Sign it, Theon of House Greyjoy, Ward and Fool. Luwin dipped the quill. We may need many ravens, he said quietly. Some will not reach the king. Others may be intercepted. Send them all, Theon whispered. He felt suddenly weightless, like a man stepping from a cliff not knowing if winds or waves waited below. Let every corner of the realm know the truth I stole. They worked in hush, scribing letter after letter, sealing each with the maester's plain wax since the great wolf stamp was gone. When the messages were bound to raven legs, Luwin held the last bird while Theon slit the noose of string around its claw. When you send these, Theon asked, will you spare me Ramsay's wrath? I am no lord of war, Luwin said, but truth is its own shield. Theon, may it wrap you thicker than iron. He raised the final bird. Black wings beat the dawn as the ravens vanished into fog. Word spread more swiftly than rumor. In the yard below, Ser Roderick's widow wept when she learned the boys lived. Some ironborn spat in disbelief while others shuddered at what they had done for a lie. Fear twisted many faces, for it was one thing to follow a prince who could slay his lord's sons, another to stand beside a liar whose leverage had turned to smoke. Theon felt the air shift. Not long now, he thought. Already the outer watch had spotted Bolton banners approaching. Pink flayed man on pale field, a horror bathed in sunrise. Ramsay Snow rode at their head, a smirk rumored to be stitched into his skin. Theon summoned the captains he still commanded. Black Lauren with his beard of coarse wire, Agur the Coil whose axe had routed Maester Luwin's frail guards, and Todrick the Laughing who no longer laughed. They gathered in the great hall beneath broken beams. I have told the North its princes live, Theon declared. The candlelight showed hollows beneath his eyes. Bolton's bastard will arrive by dusk. We cannot hold the castle. We could burn it, Lauren said, gripping his axe. If we quit these walls, we sail for the sea, and be hunted across every tide, Theon snapped. Even my father would sooner gut a son than shelter a coward who betrayed him so soundly. Agur spat blood-tinged phlegm. Then what? We parley, Theon said. The word fell like rotten fruit. We open the gates, yield Winterfell not to Ramsay but to its rightful lords. We send terms to the bastard. Safe passage for the small folk, surrender of arms, and my own life as hostage. Todrick sneered. You offer him your life. He will flay us all regardless. Maybe, Theon said softly, but if Bran and Rickon reach Robb alive, there will be judgment. Ramsay may fear the king enough to keep some of us breathing. Black Lauren's knuckles whitened about his axe haft. At length he jerked one curt nod. Better a gamble with honor than a certainty of knives. Agur crossed his arms, then sighed. I never knew a Greyjoy who knelt. I swore fealty to House Stark once, Theon said. Perhaps it is time I remember how. They agreed, not from loyalty but from resignation. Theon watched them leave in search of whitecloth for a banner. Outside the battered walls, the Bolton host assembled like a pack of eels upon snow. Flayed men echoed across their shields, faces screaming in crimson paint. Ramsay Snow sat his dappled stallion at the fore, pale eyes narrow slits of amusement. Theon emerged through the gatehouse in plain wool cloak, no helm upon his head. Black Lauren walked at his left, Maester Luwin at his right, and behind them came a column of Winterfell smallfolk bearing torches and hope. A white banner fluttered overhead. Ramsay spurred forward alone, as though the world itself might be his guard. He halted a spear's length away, sneer already carved in place. You're no prince now, Greyjoy, he called. Have you come to beg? I have come to surrender Winterfell in the name of House Stark, Theon said, his voice carrying across the frost-hushed field. Its rightful lords yet live. Murmurs rippled through the Bolton ranks. Ramsay cocked his head. You burned them. A lie I spread, Theon answered. A lie I renounce. The bastard's grin split wider. Truth is a dull blade. I prefer steel. He gestured, and riders advanced to surround the surrendering queue. Open the gates, Greyjoy. I shall decide who leaves here with skin. Theon lifted his hands, palms outward. His gaze dropped to Ramsay's gloved fingers, imagining the flensing knives hidden there. But he squared his shoulders. These small folk are innocent. Grant them safe passage. Oh, I grant many things. Ramsay's voice dripped honey. I grant you the mercy of an easy death, for one. Maester Luwin stepped forward, shaking. Lord Ramsay, word already flies to King Robb. He will know the truth of Theon's confession. Harming him now will make you answer before the king's sword. Shall it? Ramsay laughed. I think his sword would rather kiss Frey steel in the west. The king in the north is busy. Yet the maester's words struck a chord in the host behind Ramsay. A few men shifted uneasily. Perhaps they remembered the Greyjoy's fury, or the Blackfish's unerring arrows. Ramsay's smirk tightened. He called to his bannermen. Gather these folk beneath Winterfell's walls. No harm till I command it. Men began to usher the small folk aside. Theon met Luwin's gaze. Relief flickered, faint as starlight. Black Lauren made to return inside, but Ramsay barked an order. You Greyjoy lot stay. Bolton guards surrounded them. The Ironborn stiffened as spears leveled. Theon drew no blade. He had promised his life. Ramsay dismounted, boots crunching frost. He approached Theon until their breaths mingled in the cold. You surrender a castle and your skin, he murmured. But why should I not strip them both? Because you want the North to fear you, Theon said, surprised at the steadiness of his voice. Flay a liar and you make a martyr. Spare the liar who confessed, and the North will whisper your name with caution, not fury. Ramsay's pale brows rose. He considered. You know fear. I tasted it enough. And what of these hostages you kept? Gone, Theon answered honestly. Lost to woods. If you hunt them, you hunt your liege's kin. Ramsay laughed again, high and brittle. My liege is my father, not some wolf cub. But your father swore to Robb Stark, Luwin reminded, voice gentle as snowfall. If the boys are found alive, Lord Roose's pledge is renewed. That gave Ramsay pause at last. Ambition flickered behind his eyes. Theon saw calculations weigh. The bastard of Bolton longed for legitimacy, for the day his surname shed its stain. Being branded Oathbreaker would stand poorly upon that ledger. At length he snapped his fingers. Bind the Kraken Prince, he told his sergeant. But do not cut him yet. Let my lord father decide. Iron closed around Theon's wrists, cold, bracing, oddly freeing. He drew one long breath of winter air. Above, the ravens wheeled in widening gyres, the last of them winging south on a thin hope. Somewhere beyond Treeline, two boys might feel the wind shift and quicken their steps. Ramsay's host filed into Winterfell like black oil pouring through stone cracks. Fires relit gutted halls, smoke rising to join low clouds. Theon watched from the godswood where they chained him to a weirwood root, red leaves drifting across his shoulders like torn parchment. Days passed in a blur of ache. Ramsay's men looted cellars, ransacked armories, but Theon was spared the bastard's playthings for the moment. Maester Luwin tended minor wounds, smuggling broth in the night. He whispered news that ravens had reached Riverrun and Moat Cailin both. Banners stirred. On the fifth dawn, a horn blew beyond the east wall. Theon craned his neck, chains clinking. Dust rose on the King's Road, and upon that road thundered riders bearing the dire wolf of Stark and the flayed man of Bolton side by side. Roose Bolton rode at their head, eyes pale and unreadable. At his flank came Galbart Glover and Ser Edmure Tully, escorting Robb Stark's envoy, Lord Brynden Blackfish, grim and lean, his banner rippling. Winterfell held its breath. Ramsay strode from the hall, lips peeled in something like a smile, but his gaze darted. Theon felt cold calm settle over him. Bolton dismounted beneath the weirwood, his gaze lingering on the blood-red leaves where Theon knelt. Interesting, those eyes said without words. "My lord father," Ramsay began, but Roose lifted one pale hand. "Silence." He turned to the Blackfish. "You bring word from the king?" "Aye," Ser Brynden said. "King Robb commands safe return of his brothers, should they be found, and demands accounting for every life lost within these walls. He accepts Theon Greyjoy's confession and expects justice dealt by Northmen's law." Ramsay's smile faltered. "We flayed no one yet, and you shall not," Roose murmured. "Theon Greyjoy's skin belongs to the king." His gaze pinned Theon. "Tell me, Prince, where are the boys?" Theon shook his head. "I truly know not, my lord." Roose studied him, then nodded. "Very well. We shall hunt, but not with cruelty that stirs hearts against us." He swept cold eyes back to Ramsay. "Unchain him. Deliver him to Riverrun alive. If the king decrees death, we shall accommodate." Ramsay stared, cheeks twitching. "Father, you will obey." The chill in Roose's voice could freeze rivers. Chains clattered free. Theon staggered upright, legs trembling but spirit unbroken. For the first time since he had hoisted those poor boys aloft, he felt the world tilt toward some dim mercy. As guards led him from the godswood, he glimpsed the heart tree's pale face. Red sap tears carved its cheeks, yet its mouth seemed less accusing than before, as though the old gods themselves weighed the scales and found, in this fragile truth, a shard of absolution. The North would hunt for Bran and Rickon, hunters sworn to blood rather than vengeance. The lie had been shed, and with it Ramsay's cruelest right. There would be more trials, more reckonings, but Theon had stepped onto a road that might lead somewhere other than the block. He followed the Blackfish's escort toward the gate, morning sun slanting gold across broken battlements. Behind him, Winterfell groaned with tired stones, but beneath the soot an ember gleamed, the promise that wolves might yet return to their den. The escort rode hard for Riverrun beneath a sky the color of tempered steel. Frost lingered in every hollow, but 2 days south of Winterfell the winter sun found strength enough to melt the crust atop snowbanks, releasing trickles that whispered beneath the hooves. Theon Greyjoy felt each hoof fall like a drum against his spine. His wrists were bound with rope now instead of chains, yet the fibers burned no less for their softness. Black Lauren rode just behind him, flanked by 2 silent Bolton men. Ahead, Ser Brynden Tully set the pace astride a rangy bay, his cloak of river blue streaming in the wind. He seldom looked back. Between Theon and the Blackfish loped a dozen riders sworn to Galbart Glover, grim Northmen whose eyes followed Theon's every twitch. They might have drawn steel already were it not for Roose Bolton's seal upon the written orders carried by Ser Brynden. Deliver the prisoner alive to Riverrun. By the king's word or no, let him answer to Wolf's law. No one spoke of mercy. Theon did not expect it. Yet he found small solace in the ache of his arms, the chill in his lungs, proof he remained whole, flayed by guilt alone. At night, they camped in ruins of old watchposts beside the King's Road. The first evening, as crimson bled across the western snow and cook fires crackled, Theon sat tethered to a felled tree while Black Lauren gnawed salt pork. Lauren's gray eyes glinted in the firelight. "You should have ridden for the sea," he muttered. "Ironborn go into the deep, not to castles, O men." Theon shook his head, breath fogging. "The sea would drown me all the same. My father will not forgive a son who lost a castle for vanity." "You lost more than a castle." Lauren spat a bone into the flames. "You lost fear." "Fear was the only crown I ever wore," Theon said. It slipped. Silence settled until a raven croaked overhead, wings black against the dying red. In its call, Theon fancied he heard distant surf, waves he might never see again. He lay awake long after the watch changed, hearing snow melt and freeze again as stars wheeled. Beneath them, the north breathed, indifferent. On the third day, they crossed the White Knife at a ford crusted with ice. The current tugged at the horses' fetlocks. Spray soaked Theon's leggings, numbing his calves. Beyond the river, the land flattened into moor and bog. Here the Bolton outriders split off, arrowing east toward the Dreadfort with dispatches. The escort shrank to the Blackfish, a pair of silent Tully guards, the Glover men, and the 2 Ironborn prisoners. That night, wind moaned through tall reeds. Ser Brynden paced the camp's perimeter, his shadow long against a sickle moon. At last he halted before Theon. "You slept beneath my roof once," he said, voice soft. "A smiling boy who fancied himself a wolf's brother. I misliked that boy for his arrogance. Still, I would not have wished this path upon him." Theon managed to lift his gaze. "Wish instead upon the boys who died for my lie." "I do," the Blackfish answered. "Every dusk." He crouched, resting forearms on mailed knees. "The king will hear your confession. Speak plainly, and you may keep your tongue when judgment falls." "I have little else to offer him," Theon said, "except perhaps what I know of my father's mind." Brynden's brows rose. "And what coin would that be?" "Balon will strike the stony shore again come spring, hoping to bait Rob West while Lannisport bleeds. He trusts the Westerland's weakness more than the North's wrath." Theon swallowed. "Men who fear the sea forget cliffs behind them." The Blackfish studied him, eyes like still pools. "We shall weigh your words." He straightened. "Rest if you can." Theon almost laughed. Rope bit his wrists, and the ground was unkind. Yet as the old knight walked away, something eased within Theon's chest. He had spoken truth untouched by cowardice, each small stone of honesty a brick against the tide of lies. Meanwhile, leagues behind them, Winterfell stirred in a different rhythm. Ramsay snow ruled from the great hall draped in flayed-man banners. Small folk toiled under watchful eyes, repairing walls with stones scavenged from collapsed keeps. Yet whispers traveled quicker than masons. The wolf boys live, the wolf boys run free. Ramsay prowled the inner yard with his kennel master, Dernick, where hounds snarled and snapped at the scent of fear. "Loose 3 for the hunt," Ramsay commanded, stroking the scarlet collar of his favorite bitch. "Track the wildling wench, the giant boy, the cripple on his back. Bring them bound." Dernick hesitated. "My lord, Lord Roose bid no cruelty that stirs the north." "Cruelty?" Ramsay's grin split white. "Hunting lost pups is mercy. Think how cold they must be." He slammed the kennel gate. "Tell the men to ride light. If they bring me the Stark brats, my father shall name me Bolton for certain." Dernick bowed and scurried. Ramsay watched him go, eyes bright with hunger. The heart tree's red leaves rustled above, whispering secrets of old blood. Deep in the wolfswood, Bran Stark dreamed through summer snows. In moonlit slumber he roamed as summer, his direwolf body keen with sense of moss and vole, the copper tang of fresh kill, the musk of bear miles distant. He felt Rickon's wolf shaggy dog nearby, a shadow brother stalking squirrels. Between them the boys slept hidden beneath the roots of a fallen oak. Osha curled round Bran like a tigress with spear in hand, Hodder snoring softly. In the wolf dream, Bran scented men, Strange men, horses sweating, dogs barking. Fear pricked his hackles. He bounded over crusted drifts, nose to wind. The men carried torches that spat sparks into black branches. On their tabards a pink man flayed. Summer's lips peeled, teeth bared. He howled, and in distant waking Bran's body twitched. Osha's eyes snapped open. Moonlight silvered her broad nose. She laid a hand on Bran's forehead. "Easy, little lord," she whispered. "Dreamin' again?" Bran's lids fluttered. "Dogs, they're looking for us." "Let 'em," she muttered. Rising, she padded to where Hodder lay curled around the boy's packs. She nudged him. "Up, big un, quiet now." "Hodder," he mumbled, blinking, then sat up at once. They gathered what little they had. Some smoked hare, a waterskin half-frozen, Bran's carved weirwood stick. Osha hoisted Bran onto Hodder's back, binding him with a rope sling. "South we go, along the river," she said. "Deep in the reeds they'll lose the scent." Rickon whimpered, sleep rough. "Shaggy's scared." "Shaggy's wise," Osha said. "Follow Summer, fast as ghosts." They slipped into the night just as hounds bayed a few miles afar. Snow-muffled footsteps. Dire wolves loped silent as wind. In Bran's skull, Summer guided them between oak and ash, around pools crusted with ice. Twice they heard horses crashing through thickets, voices cursing. Each time Osha changed course, following the wolves' wide detours. Dawn painted the sky gray-pink when they reached the edge of a frozen pond. Mist coiled above the surface like smoke from a witch king's cauldron. Osha led them onto the glassy ice, stepping where reeds laced a path. The ice creaked beneath Hodder's weight. Bran's heart hammered. But they made the far bank, ducking into a tangle of willow. There Osha built a hasty screen of branches and smeared mud across the willow's base to hide wolf tracks. They crouched as dogs burst from the trees at the pond's opposite shore. The hounds circled, howling confusion where scent vanished. Riders reined in, curses drifting across the water. Bran saw them through willow gaps, flayed man badges bright as blood on black cloaks. One rider dismounted to peer across the ice. "Tracks end here," he spat. Another laughed. "Little wolves learned to fly, did they? We'll find them." The first man kicked at the brittle reeds. "Bastard says bring the crip and the whelp back whole. Fingers first if they struggle." Osha's grip tightened on her spear. Bran felt Summer vibrate with rage. In his mind, Bran whispered, "Not yet. Wait." The wolf crouched. The riders circled the pond thrice before turning south, curses fading. Only then did Osha breathe. Rickon bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. Hodder rocked, murmuring "Hodder, Hodder." Under his breath, when silence returned, Bran exhaled shakily. "We can't stay in the woods forever." "No," Osha agreed. "We'll head for the last river, then Eastwatch Road. There's an abandoned holdfast where I once hid from other wildlings. Wood for fire, walls for roof." "What about Rob?" Bran asked. Osha's gaze softened. "If we're not flayed first, we'll send word. But live pups bark louder than dead." Riverrun's red sandstone walls rose from mist like a bishop upon a chessboard, moats glinting where the tumblestone and red fork embraced. Trumpets keened as the escort approached. Banners of the leaping trout rippled. Theon squinted against dawn brightness. He remembered childhood days chasing Rob along these battlements, crossbow in hand, laughter skimming the water. Now portcullis teeth framed a different welcome. Within the outer yard, men hustled, strings of pack horses clopping, ravens flapping from rookery towers. War's breath lay heavy even here. Ser Brynden relinquished his prisoner to Tully guards, who stripped Theon of cloak and belt knife before frog-marching him through vaulted corridors to a dank cell overlooking the moat. They left him bound on a wooden stool. Half an hour passed before footsteps clicked outside. Lady Catelyn Stark entered alone, her face pale as mist. In torchlight, her auburn hair appeared threaded with copper. She shut the door softly behind her. Theon tried to stand. Ropes caught his ankles. He sat instead, shame bowing his spine. "My lady." She regarded him a long moment. You were a boy beside my son, a ward beneath my roof. I nursed you through pox, and you repaid us with butchered innocence. They were not your boys. Theon's voice cracked. But innocence, I confess. She drew nearer. Why confess now? Because I tire of shadows, he whispered, and because I feared the bastard of Bolton more than death itself. Catelyn's eyes glistened but held no mercy. My husband trusted you. My son called you brother. I know. Tears stung Theon's own eyes unbidden. I cannot give back what I stole, but I saved their lives in the end, Bran and Rickon. I pray you believe it. She pressed knuckles to lips, then turned abruptly, pacing the narrow cell. Ravens arrived ahead of you. Maester Vyman read the same confession thrice to be sure. I want to believe, but until my sons stand before me, truth remains a ghost. I will do all I can to help find them, Theon said. Send me to guide your search. No, her voice iced over. You will remain caged until the king my son decides your fate. She moved to the door, hand on latch. Then, softer, if what you say is true, if my sons live, perhaps the gods have not abandoned us entirely. She left. The door clanged shut, echoes ringing like judgment knells. Theon sagged, throat raw. Hope flickered dim, yet it burned. If Bran and Rickon reached safe harbor, some sliver of redemption might remain. He closed his eyes, whispering silent prayers to gods old and new, to the drowned god even, though the salty words tasted bitter. That afternoon, the great hall of Riverrun thrummed with voices. Robb Stark stood at the dais below the direwolf banner, gray eyes shadowed by exhaustion. Beside him sat Queen Jane, her hands folded white in her lap, and Lord Edmure leaning on crutches. Ser Bryndon's raven brought dire news of the Westerlands mustering anew, but every mote of Robb's focus fixed on the parchment held by Maester Vyman. Confess to treachery, false slaying of highborn wards, and do hereby surrender myself to your justice. Vyman's voice quavered as he finished reading. Your Grace, the ravens carry matching words to Sisterton, White Harbor, and the Wall. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Great John Umber slammed his fist upon a trestle. Theon Greyjoy speaks now because his skin is forfeit. Yet if he speaks true, the young wolves may live. Lady Catelyn moved to the dais, bowing her head toward her son. He swears Bran and Rickon escaped Winterfell with Hodder and Osha. Her voice carried iron. We must organize search riders north of the Fever River. Robb's jaw tightened. We will. Glover and Tallheart men know those woods. But first, what of Theon himself? Hall voices clamored. Hang him. Fling him to the Red Fork. Send him to the Wall. Robb raised a hand. Silence fell. He was my father's hostage once, treated as brother. His crime is grave, but our need for truth is greater. He turned to Catelyn. Mother, will you sit with him again? See if he'll speak of Balon's plans, of Ramsay's. I shall do as the king commands, she said quietly. Robb nodded. Justice must wait upon knowledge. The hall buzzed anew. The king's mercy tasted strange upon tongues thirsting for vengeance. South and east of Riverrun, Balon Greyjoy's longships harried the coast. At Lordsport, captains brought news of Theon's capture to the Seastone chair. Balon listened, unmoved, wind roaring through window slits. A kraken that strays ashore must dry, he said. My son chose Wolfpack over waves. Let him drown in their rivers. Asha Greyjoy alone dared speak. Father, Theon's knowledge may aid our foes. Better we offer ransom, reclaim him. Balon scoffed. Ransom? The kings of green lands barter children like trinkets. Iron men pay iron price. Then we raid deeper, Asha argued. Strike Round Tower, seize hostages, to trade their skins for my brothers. Balon's black pearl eyes glimmered. You would risk ships for a failed prince? He is Greyjoy blood, she said, and blood must answer blood. He grunted, but did not forbid her. The tide between them shifted, subtle as undertow. At Winterfell, Ramsay's hunters returned empty-handed save for one torn sleeve and a strip of direwolf fur caught on bramble. Ramsay examined the tufts beneath torchlight. "So they run south." "Aye, my lord," the lead hunter said. "We lost the trail near the last river." Ramsay's nostrils flared. "Then ride east to Barrowton. Post reward, 50 silver stags for news of a giant simpleton carrying a cripple." He dismissed them with a flick. After they left, he stroked the fur strip. "Soon, little wolves. I'll wear your pelts myself." But each day Winterfell's hold on him slipped. Boltons and Manderleys arrived bearing Robb's sigil to oversee repairs. Ser Roderick's daughter Beth donned steward's keys. Letters from Roose commanded restraint. "Prove our faithfulness. The Dreadfort's future depends upon northern trust." Ramsay ground his teeth. To obey felt like chains colder than the Bastille's walls. So he schemed. A gift might sweeten his father's hand. Something dazzling. Something red with stark blood. Along the Blue Fork, a column of Northmen plodded through slush. Lady Sibel Glover, her brother Robert, dozens of riders with sharp-eyed hounds. They combed village after charcoal village, but no wolves. On the 10th day, their hounds bayed at a half-ruined holdfast by the last river. Inside they found only embers, a cut rope, and prints of monstrous feet. Sibel knelt by the rope. "Hotter," she murmured, remembering the gentle stable boy. "They slept here." She touched ash, still warm. Less than 2 days gone. Robert Glover scanned the tree line. "Bolton dogs grow bold. If we can reach them first." Sibel stood. "Ride northwest. They head for the shore where boats still ply. The wildling woman will seek passage, not walls." They rode, banners snapping, each hoofbeat a pledge to the lost boys. In Riverrun's dungeon Theon dreamed of drowning. Salt water filled his lungs until he awoke coughing. Torches guttered. Footsteps knocked. Maester Vyman entered with a rolled parchment. "Asha Greyjoy sends offer of prisoner exchange," he announced. Theon's heart lurched. "Asha. She proposes return of Lady Meage Mormont's niece, captured upon Deepwood Mott's fall, in trade for you." Theon swallowed. "Will Robb accept?" "Doubtful," Vyman said. "The North's blood is worth more than a kraken's folly. Yet the offer proves your sister values your hide." He peered closer. "Do you value it?" "I value truth," Theon whispered, surprising himself. "What use is skin where lies rule? Pray then that truth offers shield enough." Vyman turned. "Tomorrow Lady Caitlin questions you anew. Speak wisely." Theon slumped as the maester left. Through the arrow slit a single star glittered, cold and distant. He fixed on it, breaths measured. Grief pooled around his ankles like tide. For all his sins, some thread of honor still tethered him, thin as spider silk yet unbroken. Perhaps that thread might guide him through the dark. Before dawn, Ser Brynden stood upon Riverrun's walls studying the river's confluence. Snowmelt swelled the tumblestone. Ice shards spun beneath torchlight. He heard soft steps and turned to find Robb Stark. "My lord uncle," Robb greeted. "The maw opens wider each day. Karstark men threaten desertion. Freys mutter. And now Balon Greyjoy sues for prisoner trade." Brynden folded arms. "Do you mean to refuse?" Robb hesitated. "I would free my bannerman's kin, yet why trade death for death? Theon's counsel could aid us." He sighed. "Every choice is pain. Kings bleed daily," Brynden said. "But bleed wisely. Asha's offer we may twist. Demand the return of Deepwood Mott and all captives. Let the Kraken choke on terms he cannot stomach." Robb nodded slowly. "Perhaps." He stared east where sunrise edged clouds rosy gold. "I swore to make the North free, uncle. Yet each league we ride, the leash tightens." Brynden's gaze softened. "Hold fast. Stag's rut, lion's claw, kraken's thrash, but wolves endure winter." Robb touched the wolf head brooch at his cloak. "If only my brothers walk beside me once more." "They walk within you," Brynden said. "But we shall scour forest and barrow until their footprints join yours." 2 nights later, Osha's ragged band reached the storm-lashed coast north of Seaguard. A derelict fishing shanty crouched atop the dunes. Inside, tar smell thick, Bran listened to waves boom. Summer paced outside, hackles bristling at salt spray. "We can't cross the sea," Bran said softly. "Not in winter." Osha chewed dried fish. "There's boats enough come spring. But spring's a lifetime off." She turned to Rickon huddled in wolfskin. "We stay hidden till searchers find us." "Searchers?" Bran asked. "Rob's men. Word flies north like geese." She lifted Bran's chin. "You think your confession boy kept his mouth shut? No. All the realm knows the wolf cubs hunt the wind." Bran's throat tightened. "Can we trust every Northman?" "Trust the trees," Osha said, tapping a cedar post. "They whisper truth louder than men. We'll wait in the shadow of the old gods." Hodder hummed softly. Rickon dozed, thumb in mouth. Bran listened to wind threading gaps in planks. Somewhere across leagues of frost, his family fought for breath. Yet the old gods stirred in every root, in every wave, in the unseen moon. Their story was not done. At Winterfell, a raven arrived for Ramsay bearing Roose Bolton's crisp hand. The message read, "The king considers terms with the Greyjoy girl. Maintain the castle. Spill no noble blood without sanction." Ramsay crushed the parchment, jaw flexing. "No blood," he mocked. "We shall see." He strode to the crypt entrance, torch in hand. Down dank steps he descended among stone kings of winter. Before Lyanna Stark's effigy he halted. The stone maiden's face seemed soft in flickering light, as though weeping. Ramsay touched the cold cheek. "Should have laid you with roses," he whispered, quoting some song. He raised the torch, flame-licking curved walls. "Perhaps I'll plant new roses from Greyjoy soil." Footsteps behind him. Reek, the man once named Smeagol, cowed and stinking. "Am my lord." "Gather men," Ramsay said, voice hushed as the dead. "The hunt resumes at dawn. This time we use fire." Reek bobbed. "I am my lord." Ramsay stared at stone Lyanna, then laughed softly. "Father wants peace, the king wants dogs on leashes. But I was born of bastardy, and bastards need bones to gnaw." He kissed the stone lips, leaving a smear of soot. "I shall bring them a gift red as a wedding feast." He turned, cloak swirling, leaving torchlight quivering on the maiden's face. Dawn 4 days later broke over the Seaguard coast in stripes of purple and gold. Bran woke to summer's growl. Hooves thumped outside. Male voices barked. Osha sprang, spear ready. "Brandon Stark," a man called. "In King Rob's name, reveal yourselves." Bran's heart soared and clenched at once. Osha peeked through a plank gap, then relaxed the spear. "Glover colors," she whispered. She unbarred the door. Into the shack strode Robert Glover, helm under arm, beard crusted with road dust. Behind him Lady Sibel, eyes shining. Rickon yelped with joy, Shaggy Dog bounding about. Glover knelt before Bran. "My prince, your brother seeks you." He turned to Osha. "Wildling, your service will be honored." Osha shrugged. "Dinny care for honor. Maybe for coin. We have coin aplenty." Sibel smiled, tears streaking grime. "Come. We ride for Riverrun." Bran felt tears hot on his cheeks. "Rob, is he safe?" "Safe as any king," Glover said. He rose. "We must go swift. Bolton riders scour these roads." They mounted a stout wagon padded with pelts. Hodder guided the mules, humming. Osha rode flank on a borrowed mare. Wolves loped alongside, tongues lolling. As the wagon turned inland, Bran looked back at the sea, gray, endless, then forward, heart thundering. News outran them. Ravens bearing the sigil of Glover and Stark touched Riverrun 2 days before the wagon. Robb received the letter in the Great Hall, Catelyn at his side. The king's gaunt face cracked in a smile so sudden it seemed to break the room's gloom. He read aloud. "Found both princes alive, whole and guarded. We ride hard for Riverrun." Cheers erupted.
"Gradju numbe uopad lodast, slapping se ad muras shulde."
Even dour Karstark men grinned. Robb embraced his mother, tears bright. The gods are good. Catelyn wept openly, clinging to her son. For a heartbeat, grief at Ned's loss mingled with relief. A storm-tossed sea calm at last, but within her gaze lingered steel. "And Theon?" she asked softly. Robb's smile faded. "He delivered truth, yet sin remains. That judgment may wait. For now, let him know his confession bore fruit." Robb nodded, beckoning guards. Theon's cell door opened minutes later. A guard thrust a jar of sweet wine into his hands. "From the king," the man said gruffly. "Your wards live." Theon's finger trembled round clay. Tears blurred iron bars. He sank to knees, forehead against cold stone, and for the first time since setting foot in Winterfell as a conqueror, he sobbed with something like relief. Far to the north, Ramsay Snow's riders found the burned shanty, ashes still warm. He sifted charcoal through gloved fingers, eyes alight. Reek approached, panting. "Trail goes inland, my lord." Ramsay stared west where sun bled into clouds. "We ride through night." He mounted, voice carrying an edge sharp as Flayer's knife. "If Glover holds them, we carve red smiles into every Glover throat." "But the orders," Reek began. Ramsay's boot slammed into his chest, toppling him. "Orders change in darkness." He wheeled his horse. "Ride." They pounded across dunes, hounds baying, sparks scattering beneath iron shoes. As Riverrun prepared trumpets for the prince's arrival, Balon Greyjoy sat upon the sea-stone chair with crumbling surf roaring below. Asha knelt before him, her long axe laid at his feet. "Deepwood Mott lies vulnerable since Glover rides south," she argued. "Give me 50 ships and I will take it. Trade castle for brother, trade hostages for peace." Balon's lips curled. "Peace? You sound like a Greenlander." "I sound like a captain who knows numbers," she snapped. "The North rallies now that their princes live. Better we bargain before wolves snap our oars." Balon considered. Foam spattered basalt, gulls crying. At length he flicked fingers. "Take 30 ships. Seize the Mott. But if the boy is forfeit, bring me his head, not his chains." Asha rose. "I'll bring you the North's fear, father. One way or other." 3 days later, the wagon bearing Bran and Rickon rattled beneath Riverrun's portcullis. Trumpets blared. Crowds thronged the yard. Robb stood at the gate, steel-gray cloak billowing. At sight of his brothers, he leapt the steps, pulling Bran into arms while Rickon clung to his leg. Wolves barked joyous, gray wind bounding about summer. Laughter and tears flowed in equal measure. Catelyn knelt, cupping Bran's cheeks. "Sweet boy," she breathed. "You've grown thinner." "Wolves don't fatten in winter," Bran said, voice cracking. She hugged Rickon, burying her face in his hair. "You smell like smoke." Rickon grinned gap-toothed. "Shaggy likes fires." Robb thanked Glover and Osha in turn. To Osha he pressed a silver weirwood brooch. "For your courage." She eyed it warily, then nodded. "I'll take coin too." Robb laughed. "That as well." Even joyous return bore shadow. Hodder's simple smile hid bruises along his ribs. Bran's legs lay limp as willow fronds. Rickon's eyes darted toward every loud noise. Yet their presence stitched hope into Riverrun stones. Bells pealed. Cooks roasted boar. Mead flowed. In the dungeon, Theon heard the bells and knew. He closed eyes, exhaling. Whatever came, he had not failed wholly. That night Robb convened council beneath torchlit tapestries. Bran rested near the hearth, Maester Vyman checking his bandages. Rickon slept curled with Shaggy Dog at hall's edge. Voices rose like storm waves. Karstark insisting on execution. Great John demanding honor duel. Edmure urging caution. Robb lifted a hand. "Theon Greyjoy's fate we decide with calm hearts, not hot steel. Tomorrow at dawn he will speak before this council and my brothers. They will judge whether mercy has meaning." Karstark's lips twisted. Great John grunted assent. Robb turned to Bran. "Little brother, do you wish to face him?" Bran's gaze did not waver. "Aye, let him see what his lies spared." Robb nodded. "So be it. Dawn then." Yet dawn arrived on screams. In the outer bailey lanterns blazed. Guards ran. Ramsay Snow had come in darkness, a wedge of riders smashing the sleepy pickets. Theon's cell rocked as towers shuddered under impact. He heard steel ring, men bawl. Bolts scraped. His door flew open. Ser Brynden burst in, sword naked. "We move the prisoner." Bolton treachery. He cut Theon's bonds with 2 strokes, hauled him upright. They ran, torches flickering. In the yard, Bolton men clashed with Glover and Tully guards. Above, arrows hissed. Ramsay's hounds bayed, senses wild. From parapet, Ramsay shouted, "Give me the Crip boy and the Kraken, and I spare your curs." Robb answered with horn blast. Gray wind leapt from steps, ripping out a Bolton throat. Summer and Shaggy bounded after, dire wolves tearing into pale men. Theon ducked arrows, scrambling beside Brynden toward the keep. But Ramsay spotted them. There, the Kraken wriggles. He spurred his horse across the yard, drawn sword glinting. Brynden pushed Theon behind and met Ramsay stroke for stroke. Sparks leapt. Ramsay's style was vicious, all speed and spite. Brynden's a river's flow. They circled, horses stamping bloody snow. Theon watched, breath ragged. A hound lunged at Theon. Instinct drove him. He snatched a fallen spear, thrust the haft into furry jaws, shoving aside as teeth clamped. Pain seared his forearm, but he held. Wolves descended, Summer crushing the hound's skull. Ramsay shrieked rage, lunging anew. Brynden parried, riposted. Steel slid through Bastard's thigh. Ramsay howled, staggered. Gray wind leapt, knocking him from saddle. The direwolf's teeth closed on Ramsay's sword arm. "Spare him!" Robb roared, sprinting across carnage. Gray wind froze, growling but did not tear. Robb yanked the wolf back. Guards swarmed, stripping Ramsay of blades, binding him even as he spat curses. Riverrun's bells rang again, this time victory peals. Bolton men threw down arms under torch glare. Reek crawled, sobbing, to kneel before Robb. Amidst the field of bodies, Theon sank to knees, clutching bleeding arm. Bran, borne by Hodder, emerged from the keep. His wide eyes took in ruin, then fixed on Theon. Silence fell as Bran spoke. "Ramsay wanted our skins. Theon saved me once, before he lost himself. Tonight he saved us again." Robb looked from brother to prisoner. Steel glinted at his belt, the sword of northern kings. He drew it high so torchlight danced along edge. "The North remembers," he said, voice steady. "It remembers treachery, and it remembers redemption sought in blood and courage." He pointed blade at Theon. "I, Robb of House Stark, king in the North, sentence you." Hush held the yard. Torches guttered. Theon closed his eyes, ready. "To take the black and serve the night's watch until your death." Gasps fluttered. Theon's eyes snapped open. Robb sheathed his sword. "Your crimes demand life in darkness, but those you spared live, and you bled to save them again. Let the wall judge you daily." Guards hauled Theon to his feet. Relief crashed through him like breaking waves. He bowed head to Bran, to Robb. Ramsay screamed behind his gag. Robb turned to him. "For you, bastard of Bolton, chains to match your deeds. Until my father's bannermen decide a traitor's death." Ramsay's pale eyes burned like coals as they dragged him away. Snow began to fall then, soft, silent, cloaking ruin with white. Bran felt flakes melt upon cheeks, tasting like hope. Rickon hooped, chasing fluttering snow. Wolves shook icy fur. Robb clasped Bran's shoulder. "Home, little brother. One day we return to Winterfell together." Bran looked south where roads vanished into night. Winterfell waits. Above them the direwolf banner unfurled anew, snapping bold against gray dawn. Beneath it, wolves and men stood weary but unbroken. Their story stretched onward, threads weaving through frost and fire, through guilt and grace. An unfinished tapestry of the North's relentless heart. Snowfall thickened by evening, soft drifts muting Riverrun's bustle to a hush of shuffling boots and whispered thanks. Within the keep, the scent of pine smoke mingled with roast boar, Yet halls that brimmed with revelry hours before lay subdued now, their torches guttering as fresh-posted sentries hushed lingering servants. War had brushed the castle twice in a fortnight. None wished to rouse it again before dawn. Theon Greyjoy stood in a narrow passage beneath the eastern ramparts, wrapped in a patched cloak much too large, his bitten forearm bound with linen that smelled of raw onion poultice. Two black-cloaked rangers of the Night's Watch checked the links of a manacle chain looped about his waist, the metal long enough to grant him a stride but short enough to remind him what freedom felt like. Beyond the passage mouth, courtyard lanterns glowed, drunk with snowflakes. Ravens bickered above the rookery. "You'll ride at first light," the older ranger said, adjusting the fit of a mailed mitt. "Two of us, 2 mules, and the king's writ. Cross the twins before the river swells. Then Bear Island men will meet us for escort the rest of the way. If ice closes the King's Road, we cut east for Queen's Crown." His accent lilted old tongue. "Green-gray cliffs and wind-blown heather. Pray for clear skies." Theon flexed stiff fingers. "No horse. A horse outruns thought. The Watch prefers prisoners keep pace with regrets." Theon managed half a nod. The regrets were legion. The miller's sons, Farland's quarters, the ashes of Maester Luwin's ravens, even the battered Ironborn who had followed him only to bleed for nothing. He inhaled. The draft scraped his ribs raw. Footsteps approached. Robb Stark emerged from the gloom in plain wool breeches and a ranger-gray cloak. He dismissed the guards with a glance, leaving them shadowed at archway edge. Robb's beard was darker than Theon remembered, his eyes paler. Snow peppered his hair. "I should have come sooner," the king said. "Grey wind comes sooner," Theon replied, then cursed himself for the jest. "Your Grace." Robb let the jest hang. "The wall is far. I've sent Ser Brynden as far as Seaguard to ensure safe ferries across the Green Fork. Castle Black will honor the writ. My uncle Gior will see you armored in black." He folded arms. "Obey the vows. Break them and no Stark will plead for your life again." "Vows are stone," Theon whispered. "I'm mud now." "Stone sinks slower. Sink and rise in the same breath if you must," Robb said. "Only hold to truth." He shifted, as if weight pressed his shoulders. "Bran asked to see you before you leave." Theon's stomach lurched. "To curse me? To say farewell?" Robb answered. "The choice is yours. I will see him." The words escaped before fear could swallow them. He followed Robb through pillared corridors lit by sputtering rushlights. In a corner by the Maester's tower, they found Bran propped up on a cushioned settle. Summer sprawled across his boots. Shaggy Dog dozed belly up at Rickon's side. Hodder lounged nearby, licking honey from a wooden spoon while Osha sharpened her spear with a whetstone's purr. To Theon's surprise, Maester Vyman stood also, parchment in hand, and with them Lady Catelyn, her eyes red-rimmed but unyielding. Summer rose first, amber eyes reflecting torchlight. The direwolf padded forward, sniffed Theon's bandaged arm, and sneezed. Bran stroked the animal's ear. "He remembers you," the boy said, voice thin but steady. Theon knelt, muscles screaming. "I wronged you, Bran. The gods may forgive me. I will spend the rest of my life earning that chance." "You can't give the miller's boys their lives back," Bran answered. "But you gave ours." He reached into his lap and withdrew a faded strip of gray wool, a finger of the stark mantle Theon once wore as a ward. He extended it. "Take this to the wall. The cold up there is like teeth. Remember where you came from." Theon stared at the scrap until tears blurred its weave. Catelyn's mouth tightened. Rickon whimpered something about beds being warmer when brothers stay. Even Osha slowed her whetstone. Theon's fingers shook as he accepted the cloth, tucking it against his chest. "I will remember," he said. Bran's gaze, ancient in its calm, held him. "Then go, and live long enough that the song is sung true." 3 days later, the prison column of 4, 2 rangers, a groom, and Theon, plodded along the muddy track north of the Trident. Crocus bulbs thrust through snow rot, their purple petals mock-bright against gloom. Theon rode a shag-haired mule named Thistle who brayed at ice pools. Nights they slept in crofter sheds or beneath bare boughs, fireless so as not to draw bandit eyes. On the sixth dusk, camped near Old Stone's crumbling sepulchres, Theon dreamt of moonlit waves, kelp tang and gull cries, then woke shivering to find the dream tasted of river fog, not sea. During daylight he studied his escort, Ser Eamon Rivers, a bastard of House Tarly gone north for atonement, wore a mail hauberk patched like a beggar's quilt. The second ranger, Harag Pike, ironborn by birth though no kin of Theon's, had taken the vows half a lifetime earlier. Harag called Theon prince only with irony, yet now and then he softened, asking after sisters left on the Iron Islands. "The sea forgets no name," he said once, patting Theon's shoulder. "But the wall forgives many." They reached the twins under sleet. Gate guards eyed the Night's Watch livery and waved them through, though one fry, pale mustache, wrinkled hands, spat into the moat. Inside, the great hall reeked of wet dog and spilt ale. Lord Walder himself did not appear. His steward provided dry oats, grudgingly. As they led mules across the second bridge at dawn, Theon glimpsed children playing by frozen barrels, their laughter cutting through wind. He wondered if those barrels would be coffins before winter's end. Beyond the neck, leagues of bog awaited. The King's Road narrowed to raised causeways fringed by half-submerged gallows trees. Theon's mule balked at every step. When hoarfrost blanketed reeds like ghosts, Harag paused to fashion splay-footed shoes of willow for the mules. Even so, one evening Thistle sank belly deep, braying hell. It took an hour to haul her free, Theon soaked to waist in peat broth. That night frost bit his toes. He pressed them under the mule's belly for warmth and whispered apologies to gods old and drowned. Near Moat Cailin the sky cleared, revealing a tapestry of stars Theon had forgotten. Ice-bright diamonds hung so low it seemed he could pluck them. The ruins loomed on tumbled ramparts. Owls hooted from arrow slits. They camped inside a mossy tower, and Pike told tales of Benjen Stark's early ranging. Wolves taller than men, white shadows on the fist of the first men. The wall-bound future stretched before Theon like those stories' cold horizon. While Theon trudged northward, Southron flames rose. Asha's longships, 30 slim shadows, knifed through the bight, landing beneath Deepwood Mott's rough palisade before dawn's first gull. Ironborn axes hammered gate timbers, and the garrison, 200 Glover men and 10 Tallharders left behind, scrambled half-dressed to the walls. Asha led from the prow, her hair braided with jet beads, eyes like storm seas. She scaled a ladder as archers loosed in panic, vaulted onto a parapet, and gut-kicked the first defender so fiercely he toppled onto his comrades. "Yield and you keep your hides," she shouted. The defenders fought anyway.
Crossbow quarrels hisset, axes rang.
In the outer yard a sow squealed as fire arrows set straw blazing. But Asha's men were salt-seasoned killers. Within an hour the Mott's gates hung broken, its well tower swarmed. Robert Glover's castellan, Ser Declan Poole, knelt bleeding before Asha while captives were herded into the hall. "Bind the wounded, feed the rest," Asha ordered. "Mormont girl in the dungeons. Fetch her, bathe her, give her proper clothes." Her quartermaster frowned. "Ransom, Captain?" "Exchange," she said, voice low. "My brother for Mormont blood, the Mott for safe departure. Send ravens tonight, one to Robb Stark, one to the Dreadfort. Let the Boltons know Ironborn hold his flank." She surveyed the captured keep. Timber palisade gleaming with pitch, stables smoldering, ravens circling on smoke columns. Victory should taste of salt and ale. Instead ash clung to her tongue. "Sing no songs until the trade struck," she warned. "We are shadows on a wolf's doorstep." Inside Riverrun's deepest dungeon, Ramsay snow rotted. Iron mother chains shackled his wrists high, forcing him to stand, toes barely grazing straw. A single torch smoked spiderwebs overhead. Twice daily guards hauled him down, slopped cold stew into his mouth, then hoisted him again. He hummed during feedings, tuneless, maddening. On the 5th day, a boy jailer found him staring at wall cracks, whispering names as though reciting prayer. "Who you talking to?" the boy asked, pressing nearer through bars. "Zeal," Ramsay murmured, flat eyes glimmering. You do your duty well. I shall remember. The boy swallowed. Want water? Yes, Ramsay crooned. Yes, be kind. Good lads earn rewards. The moment the door slipped ajar, Ramsay lurched. Chains rattled. He sank teeth into the boy's ear, tearing flesh. Blood sprayed. The boy shrieked. Guards rushed, beating Ramsay back with cudgels until his lips split and eye swelled. He cackled, spitting cartilage. That night Robb ordered extra manacles, and Caitlin insisted on a rotation of grown guards only. But word of the attack spread through halls like spilt milk, sour and lingering. Men muttered of the beast below, and women crossed themselves twice. When Lord Roose Bolton arrived 4 evenings later, gray as a winter river, flanked by silent leal men, he asked first to see his bastard. Robb led him downward. They found Ramsay dangling, face puffed purple. Roose waved back the guards, stepped close. You shame our name, he said, voice level. Ramsay's swollen lips cracked into a grin. What name? He laughed. Phlegmy. Bastard is bast. Roose pressed 2 fingers beneath Ramsay's cracked ribs. The younger man gasped. Speak again, and I'll leave you to fry justice. He lifted the torch, staring into his bastard's eyes. Do you comprehend your position? Ramsay's breath whistled. Father, he wheezed, let me at the Kraken Witch. Deepwood burns. We can trade ironborn heads for your honor. Roose's expression did not change, yet his eyes narrowed. Tell me all. In the gods wood Bran dreamed the heart tree bled molten silver. Its sap pooled, reflecting constellations that burned like raven's eyes. In that mirror water he saw Theon stumbling along ice ridges, saw Asha's axe glisten in Torchred Hall, saw Ramsay chew an ear, saw the wall stretching endless, its top crowned by pale dawn. He reached out. His hand plunged through cold mirror, and he woke with summer's breath in his hair. The crow with 3 eyes wants you north, Osha muttered, crouched by the root while sharpening a broadhead arrow. Her wildling intonations grated as stone on flint. Bran rubbed sleep from his lids. You believe him now? I believe you walked in wolfskin days on end, she said. Could be your half-beast now, half-boy. Beasts belong in the wild. Robb needs me here, Bran argued. Osha shrugged. So did Theon when spears closed in. Need is wind. The world's bigger than this castle. Maester Vyman entered then, carrying parchment. A message from Maester Luwin's replacement at Winterfell, he announced. His eyes gleamed. Ser Roderick's niece writes that snowmelts flood the moat, repairs begin, and, most important, seed grain stored in crypts survive the sacking. That's good, Bran said, though his thoughts still danced along the wall. He imagined Theon trudging past Last Hearth, snow devils swirling about him like lost souls. The scrap of stark cloth would be stiff by now, but its thread bound them. The king in the north convened council under a pale full moon, the rushlight smoking. Roose Bolton stood like a rime-capped stone. Great Jonyu. Mbur nursed ale. Edmure perched uneasily on a stool, his broken legs splinted. Galbart Glover had returned from the coast ragged, eyes aflame. News of Deepwood's fall seething his blood. Asha Greyjoy offers to release Lady Lyra and my sister's boy in exchange for her brother, Glover growled. Now she's taken Deepwood again. If we yield Theon, Ironborn keep the Motte, and Moat Caelan blocks our return routes should we march north. We could storm Deepwood, Great John thundered. With what men? Edmure countered. Our levies bleed in the west. Bolton's quiet voice cut through them. We negotiate. Asha believes Theon holds value. We show him broken, humble, reduce their price. Robb-eyed Bolton. Deepwood stands in my realm. Letting krakens nest their dishonors my banner. Then reclaim it through guile, Bolton replied. Send a force hidden in merchant wagons. Strike by night. No, Robb shook his head. Open war is our lot. Yet I will not trade Theon for hostages only. We demand full withdrawal of Ironborn from the north. Glover exhaled relief. Umber barked approval. Bolton's pale eyes betrayed no emotion. Very well, your grace. By then Theon's party reached Queen's Crown, a half-collapsed watchtower jutting from frozen swamp. A pale dawn bled into ragged clouds. As they approached, horn blasts sounded from the ramparts. Jon Snow descended the steps, cheeks wind-burned dark beneath his cowl. He embraced Aemon Rivers, clapped Harag's arm, then regarded Theon. "You found your way to us after all," Jon said, voice low. "With shackles," Theon answered. Jon gestured up the slope toward the wall's shadow looming against northern sky. "Better chains in the watch than crowns of lies." Theon swallowed. "You always spoke plain. Plain words cut clean." Jon turned.
Come.
"The old bear waits. Inside Castle Black's courtyard, rangers drilled. Ravens roost on crenels. Snow fluttered down like silent applause. Jeor Mormont strode forth, cloak of dark feathers sweeping. "Greyjoy," he rumbled, "you stand before the night's watch. Speak your vows or hang." Theon knelt in icy slush, knee freezing. "I will take the black," he said. "I pledge my life and honor." Mormont lifted an ancient ebon blade. "Then rise as brother. Rise, and guard the realms you once betrayed." Theon rose, and the wall behind Mormont seemed to breathe, a colossal lung exhaling frost. In that breath Theon felt the pull of new purpose, tenuous yet real. Each stone vow he uttered built a parapet between past and future. When the ceremony ended, Jon handed him a black wool cloak. "Ghost has never trusted Krakens," Jon said, "but he understands second chances. Do you?" Jon looked south where smoke lines from whalers painted the horizon. "Ask me after winter's end." South of Winterfell, Roose Bolton's plans stirred. The Lord commandeered a score of swift riders bearing empty ale barrels crudely marked as fry tithes. "The Ironborn think Frey's ferry wine to barter," he told Robb. "They'll open gates." Robb allowed it reluctantly. Bolton's riders vanished into dawn, barrels rattling. Behind them, Ramsay remained shackled, but now under his father's sole watch. No mishap would set the bastard free, yet rumors of his ferocity made even Fry knights avoid the cell doors. During the second journey day Ramsay spoke. "Father, reward me. Let me raise Deepwood after gates open." Roose cleaned a fingernail with a slender blade. "The king forbade unnecessary cruelty." "Unnecessary?" Ramsay's grin slithered. "Cruelty is a whetstone. It sharpens fear into obedience." Roose considered his bastard the way a master appraises a restless hawk. "Obedience to whom?" "To you," Ramsay answered instantly. Yet in his eyes flames danced, wild, hungry. Roose slid the blade back into his sleeve. "We shall see." Night settled along the Wolfswood like black syrup when the Bolton convoy crested Deepwood's ridge. Torches flickered along the palisade walk. Ironborn greeted them with jeers. "Fry wine," one called, voice echoing between pines. "Aye," the lead rider answered, lifting a cask. "Lord Walder's finest." The gate squealed as chains lifted. Wagons rolled inside. Once through, the riders dismounted, too slowly for Asha's liking. She descended from the hall dais, axe resting on shoulder. "Unload quick. I have parched men." Bolton rider nearest the gate smiled. "As you wish." He hammered a tap into the first barrel, and wildfire erupted. Green tongues burst skyward, clinging to log palisade, to ironborn torsos. Screams tore the night as flames danced. From within next barrel sprang armored men wielding short spears. Gates were shoved shut, ropes cut. Chaos roared. Asha swung her axe, carving a man's shoulder, then ducked a spear. Thick smoke stung eyes. Fiendish green light painted carnage. She rallied her reavers. "Shields douse!" But barrels kept exploding, splashing wildfire across yard. Panic scattered her ranks. In minutes Bolton men controlled the well tower. Horn blasts signaled outer reinforcements. Asha retreated toward the Lord's Hall, dragging Lady Lyra Mormont with a rope noose as shield. "Hold or she dies," she shouted above crackling blaze. Bolton captain advanced helmless, voice calm. "Deepwood will burn regardless." He gestured. Archers knocked. Asha's jaw clenched. She shoved Lyra behind, raised empty palm. Parley then. They bound her wrists, doused flames by morning. Deepwood's ruins smoldered, bodies charred. Bolton banners unfurled once again. Asha sat among wreckage, staring at melted iron of her own axe. She laughed once, bitter. "Wasn't the sea but wildfire took us," she muttered. "Some drown in water, some in flame." News of Deepwood's retaking reached Riverrun in 6 days. Robb received the parchment before dawn. Candlelight flickered across his drawn features as he read Bolton's terse line. "Keep secured. Hostages safe. Asha Greyjoy captive." Galbart Glover knelt, fists trembling. "My Lord King, let me hang her." Robb shook his head. "She may yet ransom peace. Without her ships, Balon's coast raids falter." Caitlin pressed fingers to temples. "Every prisoner we keep is a dagger to negotiate with, yet daggers cut both ways." Bolton stood silent. His eyes measured the room. Finally, he broke the hush. "Asha claims Balon suffers an illness of lungs. Saltclaw cough kills quickly. The Iron King's reign may end soon." Robb's brows knit. A succession of krakens swarming for rule benefits no one. "Perhaps," Bolton said, "perhaps chaos at sea grants us respite inland." Great John swore, "I tire of chaos. Give me walls and men to fight." "You shall have them," Robb vowed. He turned to Brynden. "Uncle, muster our river lords. The Westerlands mount countersiege at Seaguard. If Lannisport wins, our rear splits." Brynden bowed. "I ride within the hour." Bran, listening from the hearth recess, felt weight crush his chest. War stretched in every direction like winter's maw, swallowing hopes before they ripened. He remembered Osha's words. Beasts belong in the wild. But he was still part boy, still tied to this crumbling center. That night he returned to the Godswood. Snow drifted under the heart tree. Moonlight silvered red leaves into ghost steel. Bran pressed palm against pale bark and breathed. "Show me what lies beyond," he whispered. Vision answered. A storm on the shivering sea, black waves devouring a longship whose prow bore a kraken sigil. Sailors screamed. One, tall and gaunt, coughed blood onto salt-soaked deck. Then the vision shifted, white wolves racing across frost at Nightfort's shadow, their eyes uncanny blue. Behind them marched shapes of ice-armored men carrying spears of glass. Bran jerked back. His hand left a print on bark like crimson rootwork. Summer whined low. "North," Bran murmured. "The true war lies north." At Castle Black Theon's new life began at midnight muster. He stood in line with other fresh recruits. Rapers, poachers, sons of lesser lords, wearing boiled leather brigandines dyed black. Ghost drifted between ranks, silent as breath. Ser Dennis Mallister inspected formations while torch flames cracked resin. After March drill, Theon was assigned to the builders for night duty repairing an ice hoist. Fingers numb, he hauled ropes alongside a thief from Maidenpool. Frost rimed their brows. Hoarfrost crusted his lashes. Yet each knot tied felt like stitching on a new skin, black cloth over flayed pride. He closed eyes a moment and saw Winterfell's gate, two small bodies aloft. Guilt stabbed but did not cripple. Pain could be anchor. Come dawn, ravens arrived carrying scrolls sealed with wolf and flayedman wax. Jeor Mormont read aloud in the commons. Deepwood retaken, Asha Greyjoy captive, Balon ill. The realm shifts, the old bear observed, but our watch remains. Wildlings mass beyond the Frostfangs. Rangers sight giants lumbering south. We ride within 2 days. Brothers newly sworn will garrison the wall. Theon volunteered for garrison crowd. Mormont grunted approval. Jon Snow, appointed first ranger in Corran Halfhand's stead, clapped Theon's shoulder. Hold the wall. It'll test you harsher than any sea. Theon nodded. Beneath Black Cloak's collar, the scrap of stark mantle brushed his skin. Ramsay Snow, still bound in Riverrun's cell but allowed a bucket and pallet, heard news too. A jailer mentioned Deepwood's fall while switching torches. Ramsay laughed until tears spilled. Fire, he crooned. Father's cold heart favors fire after all. That night he did not sleep. He counted cracks in ceiling bricks, whispered names of flaying victims, plotted forks of possibilities. When dawn came, he requested quill and parchment, claiming he would write a confession. The guard refused. Ramsay smiled. Then fetch your captain. Confessions lose flavor wasted. Reluctant, the man left. Ramsay slipped sliver of bone, pickled from lash welts between chain links, working silently. By the time captain returned, manacle pin clicked free. Ramsay lunged, chain whipping. The captain fell gurgling. Ramsay seized keys, unlocked leg irons, and donned the dead man's cloak. Through corridors still slumbering after night watches he padded. Dragging blade gleamed from belt. 2 guards at post ahead. He needed quiet. His eyes darted. Mind sang. He never reached them. Gray wind appeared from shadow, fur rising. The direwolf's snarl froze torchlight. Ramsay backed slow. Robb Stark emerged behind the wolf, sword drawn, as archers stepped from alcoves. You thought wildfire burned alone, Robb said. Guards tripled at your cell, passages sealed. I let you write your confession. Inkless. Ramsay's grin wilted. Robb nodded. Archers loosed. 2 shafts pinned Ramsay's sleeves to wall stone. Blood blossomed. He howled until gag stuffed his mouth. Robb stepped close. The wall may forgive, he said, but the North remembers. While winter whispered its approach, Balon Greyjoy coughed blood upon the deck of Storm Crow. His maester mixed nettle tea with pine resin, but lungs rattled. On the 17th night of voyage to Fair Isle, Balon collapsed, foam at lips. Salt wives wailed. By dawn, Kraken banners flew half-mast. The Iron Islands trembled, succession knives sharpened. News traveled swift on seabirds. Robb Stark received word in Riverrun's Bailey, parchment damp from spray. He read silently, then gathered counsel. The Iron King is dead. Quellen's line fractures, he announced. Glover exhaled. Bolton's lips quirked. Edmure crossed himself. Robb continued. We hold Balon's daughter. She is strong, yet King Smoot may throw spears at her. If we release her to claim Sea Stone Chair, she may end raids quickly to stabilize throne. But she may also strike us unguarded. Caitlyn's voice cut. Trust not the Kraken's honor. Use her as hostage until the realm quiets. Bolton interjected. Or ally. Promise her Deepwood's ashes if she curbs reaving. Great John snorted. Means little once winter locks ports. Arguments rippled like cross-currents. Bran, seated near firelight, watched their faces as if reading omen runes. His heart tugged again toward north. The wall needed men. The realm needed truth-seers. That eve Bran sought Robb privately. Brother, let me journey beyond wall. Robb's brow furrowed. Madness. Your legs. Hotter carries me. Summer guides. The three-eyed crow calls. Bran insisted. I see walkers in dreams. They move south. If we wait, war here means nothing. Robb swallowed, conflict tearing across his face. Mother will never. Father trusted me in the crypts, Bran said. Trust me now outside walls.
Silencer hung.
Flames popped. At last Robb knelt beside Bran. If you go with guard. Osha hotter, maybe a dozen men. Bran's lips curved just slightly. I need the open world, not shields that clank. Robb huffed, but then smiled crookedly. Stubborn as the bark on the heart tree, he ruffled Bran's hair. Dawn still comes. We'll speak tomorrow. Tomorrow never promised calm. Dawn broke with chiming bells. Walder Frey's third son, Emmon, arrived bearing a proposal of alliance sealed in pink wax. He offered one of his younger daughters, Lady Roslyn, to wed Robb's half-brother Jon Snow if Jon were legitimized. Tie bastards to bridges, the letter read, and rivers flow gentle. Robb laughed darkly. Bridges collapse when Freys build them. More urgent came a raven from White Harbor. Lord Wyman manderly sighted sails off Flint Cliffs, Ironborn fracturing into warring fleets. Some pledged Asha, Others Euron crows I returned from exile. Rumors of black sails with red-eyed krakens chilled even Bolton's blood. Release Asha to secure peace, Bolton urged. Squeeze her for secrets first, Glover countered. Hang her, prove no weakness, Umber bellowed. Robb rubbed temples. Council dissolved into shouting. That night Bran dreamt again. A fleet of black sails ringed by storms, crows perched on masts, their eyes sapphire. One bird spoke in a voice old as stone. Crowns crumble, walls fall. The night is long and full of wings. Bran woke gasping. A castle black, word of ironborn turmoil held little weight. Rangers set forth beyond the Milkwater, Jon leading. Theon remained to train recruits, memorize gate levers, study maps of abandoned castles. He wrote letters never sent to Robb, Bran, even Asha. In them he confessed more than crimes. Fears of winter specters, dreams of drowned halls. He burned each letter at dawn. One crisp noon as he hauled ice blocks to hoist, the horn on Eastwatch rang 3 times. Sharp, quivering. Wildlings massing? No. 3 blasts meant something older than men. Terror pricked Theon's nape. He scanned horizon of frost. Pale shapes moved on distant ridge, glimmering where sunlight refracted. Old brothers whispered. The others! New recruits trembled. Theon gripped spear, remembering flames in Winterfell, wildfire at Deepwood. Yet those were men's doings. Ice demons cared little for banners. He tightened cloak. Stone sinks, he muttered, repeating talisman phrase. But stone splits ice too. Riverrun dispatched riders north to verify. Bran watched them depart, heart knocking. When night draped the castle, he wheeled through corridors until he found Osha sharpening knives. We ride at moonrise, he announced. She raised a brow. Does the king know? Not yet, Bran said. But he will. He slid a sealed parchment toward her. Give him this after we pass the gate. It bore Robb's name. Osha read the outside, then grinned. Wolf pup grows fangs. They gathered what little they needed. A pack of smoked venison, Maester Vyman's maps, a weirwood carving Hodder carried like talisman. Jojen Reed, newly arrived with his sister Mira at Glover's request, begged join. Bran agreed. Under cloak of midnight, they slipped to the stables. Summer and Shaggy padded ahead. Hodder lifted Bran onto horseback, and they trotted out gate postern as sentries drowsed by brazier. When Robb learned at dawn, his anger flared, then died in grim respect. He opened Bran's letter. The wall calls me. The war of men may end in ice, not steel. Forgive my flight. Remember my return. Robb folded parchment, staring north. Catelyn wept, but quietly. Our children walk paths we cannot follow, she whispered. Robb turned to Roose Bolton. Send fast riders after them, but no chains. Escort only. Bolton bowed, though mischief flickered behind pale lashes. Asha Greyjoy sat in Riverrun's tower cell 2 stories above Ramsay's. Unlike his pit, hers held a narrow window barred by rusting iron where swallows perched. She kept tally scratches on wall, muttering names of ships she still hoped to command. When Balon's death letter arrived, she sank to straw floor, but only for a moment. By dusk she demanded ink. She wrote to Robb, "Release me and 10 of my men. I will end raids, pledge fealty to House Stark, and bring my fleet against Eurons. The sea cannot be ruled by madmen." She listed hostages she'd return. Lyra Mormont, Benfred Tallheart, 8 children seized from Stony Shore. She signed, Asha of House Greyjoy, rightful Lady of Pike. Robb studied the letter at council and found no deceit in its blunt edges. Yet Catelyn urged caution. A kraken coils when speared, she said. Better a coiled ally than an untethered enemy, Robb replied. He drafted terms. Asha would swear on the drowned god's bones, yield all northern keeps, and send a son or brother as ward. The letter sealed, ravens flew. 3 dawns later, distant watchers on Seaguard's tower spied black sails trimmed in green, winging west. Euron's crows I fleet turned toward Lannisport instead. Balon's funeral pyre smoke still drifted across Pike's Cliffs when Asha's supporters crowned her queen in the salt-speckled hall of Naga's ribs. But the Kingsmoot had yet to gather. War between Krakens loomed. Far beyond such quarrels, Bran's party skirted the ruined holdfast of the gift. Snow deepened, Hodder's breath plumed. Jojen's green eyes glimmered with visions he would not share. Summer scouted, tail high, Shaggy snarled at every pine. Nights they camped in abandoned crofters' steads, Osha weaving traps for hair. Conversation faded into wind's howl. One night Jojen spoke by fire. The cold gods stir. They know the green seer comes. Bran stared into flames. Will they stop us? Only death stops the river, and even death flows when ice breaks. Mira set a hand on her brother's shoulder. Speak clearer. Jojen shrugged slender shoulders. Theon stands sentinel on wall of ice. Ramsay gnaws at chains. Asha waits tied. Their choices pivot yours. Bran frowned. I thought greenseers saw everything. Paths, not paving stones, Jojen said. We walk uncertain ground. Snow thickened. By the 5th day they glimpsed the wall's white immensity, moonlight shimmering along its flank like polished bone. Horn sounded once, ranger returning. A patrol found them near Queen's Crown ruins, guided them to Eastwatch Stockade where rhymes sparkled on timber. Theon met them beneath frost-laden lanterns. He stared dumbfounded at Bran, then grinned crookedly. You outran every army to find me again. Bran reached to clasp Theon's wrist, unable to stand. We outran fear. Now help us climb. Theon bowed head. The wall waits. In Riverrun, Robb received twin tidings. Bran safe at Castle Black, and Roose Bolton's victory at Deepwood shadowed by rumors his men loosed wildfire ignoring King's ban. Robb summoned Bolton, fury coiled. You disobeyed orders, Robb said. Bolton's voice flowed like chilled wine. Wildfire ended battle swiftly. Fewer casualties among your bannermen. Among mine, perhaps, Robb answered. But hundreds of iron. Born burned screaming. Such cruelty breeds vengeance. Bolton inclined head. Sometimes fear is mercy. The words echoed Theon's old creed, and Robb felt chill. Mercy born in fire is not northern justice. Their eyes locked, a silent duel. Then Robb dismissed counsel. Bolton's bow held crisp as new parchment, yet something in his parting gaze promised deeper conflagrations. On the wall's parapet, Bran looked west. Sunset painted snow rose gold. Theon stood beside, cloak whipping. Beyond this ice, Bran said. The dead walk. Theon swallowed. I once feared Ramsay's knives more than death. Now, Bran's hand brushed the scrap of cloth at Theon's chest. Fear what comes for all men, not what men make. Alone later, Theon descended inner steps to Hefty Hall, where ravens quirked. He penned a fresh letter to Robb, telling of Bran's arrival, of rumors beyond the woods, of duty sworn. This one he sent. When raven wings beat south into starlit dark, Theon Greyjoy exhaled. Tomorrow he would teach boys to fletch arrows, patrol an ice corridor where shadows whispered. The road behind lay paved with betrayals. The road ahead veined with frost and war. Somewhere in those intertwining tracks, he hoped, waited a shard of self he could call whole. Snowflakes drifted onto the parchment scrap sewn inside his cloak. Against the endless white they looked like ashes reversed, flecks of purity where fire once consumed. He touched the cloth, breathed the wall's cold air, and did not yet know whether those flecks foretold salvation or simply another kind of burning. Gray dawn seeped across the wall like pale ink, turning the monumental ice into a slab of ghost glass. Castle Black stirred. Ravens croaked, winches clacked, and far below the parapet, recruits shuffled into columns for morning drill. Bran Stark watched from the Lord Commander's tower window, cheek pressed to frost-rimmed glass. He felt the call of the heights tug at him every heartbeat, an invisible hand urging him northward, ever northward. Summer sprawled at his feet, tail thudding once whenever the direwolf caught the musk of fresh butchered goat drifting up from the kitchens. On the yard below, Theon Greyjoy led a half-dozen green boys through spear forms. Their clumsy lunges brought snorts from veteran builders hauling ice blocks. Yet Theon did not scold. He stepped in, guided shoulders, reset stances. 2 months at the wall had carved harsh lines into his face, but purpose lent him a steadiness Bran scarcely remembered. When a spear shaft snapped, Theon accepted the splintering without curse, told the boy to fetch a fresh ash pole, and turned to the next recruit. "Hard to believe he's the same man who," Mira Reed murmured beside Bran, her voice barely more than breath. "He isn't," Bran said, though he could not decide whether it was forgiveness or longing that shaped the words. In dreams he sometimes saw Theon before Winterfell's hearth, juggling apples for Rickon's delight. Other nights he saw the burned corpses, and then woke trembling until summer pressed close. Both Theons lived inside him now, and he was weary of arguing which deserved place. Footfalls thumped the stairwell. Hodder ducked through the doorway, cheeks glowing from cold wind. Behind him came Samwell Tarly, pink-red and puffing, parchment clutched to his chest. "Raven from the Shadow Tower," Sam announced, blinking snowflakes from his lashes. Cotter Pike scouts took White's 4 leagues east of Greywater Watch, fresh dead, not long buried. Bran's heart lurched. He imagined armored corpses slogging through snow-choked barrows, icy fingers clawing against canoes of the neck. "The dead move faster every day," he whispered.
Sam nodded grimly.
"The old bear means to send warning to every keep south of Moat Cailin. We'll need riders." "Robb must know," Bran said. "If walkers breach the neck, all the north is flanked." Mira brushed sleet from her braid. "No raven flies that far against winter storms. We must carry the warning ourselves." Sam bit his lip. "The King's Roads team with highwaymen. Wildlings raid deeper each week." "Are you certain?" "I am," Bran answered. He wheeled away from the window and reached for the fur-lined cloak Osha had tailored to fit over the carved ash backboard that cradled him when Hodder bore him on journeys. Jojen saw fields of ice roses blooming in the wolfswood. They grow where white walkers tread. At the name Jojen, silence spread like oil. The boy had grown fevered 3 nights prior, green eyes glittering with secrets too large for 13-year shoulders. Maester Eamon's tinctures eased the blaze in his blood, yet Jojen remained Abed, whispering of doors sealed in bone and snow. When Bran tried to calm him, Jojen seized his wrist and gasped, "The beast becomes the gate." Bran carried the weight of that riddle now. Hodder knelt and allowed Bran to settle into the backboard harness. Outside, morning wind cut with the promise of deeper storms. Theon's drill ended. He raised a brow when he saw Bran descending the tower ramp with Hodder, Sam, and Mira at his flanks. "Another ranging?" Theon asked, wiping sweat with the hem of his cloak. "A ride past the shivering wood," Bran lied. Jon had taught him that some truths must hide until time's spearhead pierced the right moment. "Need 3 good men." "You'll have me," Theon replied without pause. "And Duras Dyer knows the wolf paths. I'll fetch him." Sam swallowed. "I'll stay." Cotter Pike's letter. "It needs copying for Eastwatch posts." Bran nodded. He felt Summer's mind brush his, an image of starglitter on fresh-fallen snow west of the King's Road. Danger throbbed there, like distant drums. 2 days later they slipped from Castle Black beneath a moonless sky, party of 6, Bran on Hodder's back, Mira scouting ahead on snowshoes, Theon, Duras Dyer, and a mute ranger named Stoneshore bringing up the rear with a small supply sled. They carried black cloaks turned inside out to expose wolf-gray wool, hoping to melt into storm squalls. Summer and Shaggy padded silent flanks. They made 15 miles the first night, stealing along wind-carved ridges. At dawn they tucked into a ravine thick with hoarfrost birch, camouflaging the sled beneath pine boughs ripped free by storm. Theon set wards, tiny bells strung on horsehair loops, around the hollow's mouth, then joined Mira patting snow into a crude lean-to for Bran and Jojen, whom Hodder carried swaddled in furs upon the sled. Though fever ebbed, Jojen drifted between sleep and murmured prophecy. When dusk fell, Mira returned from a perimeter sweep, eyes flitting. Shapes on the eastern ridge. Could be elk, Could be worse. Theon moved to climb the slope, but Bran touched his wrist. Let me. No, lad. It's what I can do. Bran closed his eyes, slid into summer with a thought as easy as slipping into a warm stream. Wolf scent flared. Pine resin, distant carrion, steel. He bounded up the rise, nose twitching. Beyond a cleft of shale he saw figures, 5, maybe 6, bundled in ragged hides, iron axes strapped across backs. Wildlings. One limped, dragging a half-healed leg. Another carried a spearhead of dragonglass lashed to ash wood. Summer crouched behind Snowcrest, muscles coiled. They weren't whites. Bran retreated. He opened human eyes and relayed the news. Spears of dragonglass, Theon murmured. Somebody taught them the old dangers. They might be more friend than foe. Potter rocked, uneasy. Mira checked Jojen's brow and whispered, We cannot chance a fight. Jojen's too weak. Then we cross the suicide stretch tonight, Duras said. 4 miles of open tundra whipped by unbroken wind. Stone Shore grunted assent. They broke camp silently. Bran lingered long enough to wipe footprints with spruce branches. Summer vanished into the gloom, sniffing wind currents for threats. Shaggy's eyes glowed green-gold in reflection of ghost heaven. They stepped onto the ice flats just as clouds parted, dumping silver starlight upon the world. Each breath crystallized. Bran could feel Hodder's great heart hammer through the woven stock of the carrying frame. Hours passed measured only by crunch of snow and occasional muttered curse when wind cut gauntlets. At midpoint across the stretch, Summer sent a spear of fear into Bran's mind. White shapes behind, gaining. Wildlings? No. These figures glided without gait, silent as the night itself. Bran shouted warning and Theon wheeled, stringing a bow by reflex. Moonlight struck the leader first. Flesh blue pale, eyes burning cerulean. Others, Theon hissed. They were 6, advancing. Stone Shore notched an obsidian-tipped arrow, loosed, straight through the walker's chest, exploding it into shard frost. The shards hissed, steam-cold. Dire breathed gods and fired next. Mira hauled Bran behind a ridge of rock, thrust a dragonglass dagger into Hodder's fist. But when the third walker fell, a new threat rose. Their dead fragments crawled across snow like living frost, coalescing into smaller shapes, spider-thin limbs glistening. One shard creature leapt at Dyer's throat. He screamed as skin blackened at wound edges. Another skittered for Bran. Hodder roared and smashed it midair with his hammer. Ice dust burst into whirling motes, yet the motes drifted to snow and combined again. Summer and Shaggy tore into the swarm, jaws crushing diamond limbs that reformed even as fangs shattered them. Fire! Bran shouted, though wind ripped words away. Theon, already doused an arrowhead in torch oil, struck flint. The blaze sputtered but caught. He loosed. The arrow streaked and struck swirling motes. Motes hissed to water, then steam. More torches. Theon barked. They had 4 left, kept for signaling. Stone Shore lit all and swung one like a flail, sweeping ice microbes into puddling ooze that froze inert. The swarm retreated toward remaining walkers, seeking host. Hodder lifted Bran onto the supply sled. They surged forward toward treeline, guiding torch flame behind like shepherd staffs. At last the others halted, eyes pulsing. They watched but did not pursue. Trees swallowed the company. They stumbled another half-mile before exhaustion wrenched them to knees. Dyer's neck wound wept purple. Theon poured fire wine on it. Flesh sizzled. Dyer bit leather to stifle screams. When morning came, though sun was a pale smear, they found themselves at the edge of a black river branched like a dying hand. The milk-water. Hoarfrost webbed its surface but current still churned beneath. They dared not camp long. Theon ordered a crude raft of lashed spruce trunks. Hodder placed Bran and Jojen aboard. Summer leapt nimble. They pulled across while Mira and Theon guarded banks. But watchers waited, the earlier wildlings drawn by torch fire. A woman in eagle feathers stepped from brush. "Hold crows," she warned, spear leveled. Her companions ringed the landing. Theon lifted bow but Bran urged calm. "We come with warning," Bran called. "The dead hunt south." Featherwoman's gaze fell upon Bran, then shifted to Jojen Delirious. Recognition flashed. "Green dreaming boy," she said. "My men raided Atwater Village last spring." Healer there spoke of Crannig oracles. She lowered spear. "Speak your warning to the Spearwives' Council. They will carry word along secret tideways." Theon relaxed minutely. Negotiation followed. Dragonglass for passage. Healing herbs for Dire. The wildlings guided them along shadowed elk trails, beneath crags where giants once carved runes. 2 nights later, they reached a hidden encampment of turf huts and fire pits, perched at the valley mouth of the Frostfangs. Women guarded peripheries, children practiced with slings. Bran addressed the council in their long hall of sod. He told of wights near Greywater, of Walker's shard hoard, of Moat Caelin's vulnerability. A bent elder named Wolfmother listened, tapping bone cane. "We know," she rasped. "Blue eyes roam hills. We feel wind die in their passing. But crow lords down south call us foe." Bran gripped the armrest of his wicker seat. "Robb Stark is my brother. He will hear me. We must fight together or die alone." He told them of dragonglass caches, of lines of flame. Wolfmother studied him long before nodding once. "We lend spears for this war," she said, "but no kneeling to stone walls. Freedom we keep." Bran agreed. Oaths exchanged. They plotted crossing points through the neck where reedfolk could smuggle families. Theon pressed wax to a message board for Jon. "Wildling alliance possible. Prepare to receive families, not foes." That night, as snow whispered on the hide roof, Jojen's fever broke. He woke clear-eyed and said, "The gate is found." "What gate?" Bran asked. Jojen pointed weakly southeast. "The Night Fort's black well. Beneath it lies the secret path. A door in the wall that even crows forgot. We must reach it before the others." "Others?" Mira prompted. He swallowed. "Not White Walkers, men. A lord in pink silks sends killers to claim the gate. Open it for dead things in exchange for a crown." Bran's skin prickled. Pink Bolton colors. Could Roose, or worse, Ramsay, be conspiring with the night? The idea chilled deeper than blizzard wind. At Riverrun, Ramsay Snow's latest escape attempt left 2 archers disarmed, but still alive. Robb's patience thinned to thread. He convened lords under stone vault of Derry Hall. "I will not play cat to his rat," Robb declared. "The bastard dies at moonrise. Let every Northman witness. No songs, no speeches. Swing the axe and be done." Great John Umber roared approval. Even Edmure agreed. Only Roose Bolton expressed doubt, voice smooth as glass. "A hurried execution invites rumor. Better he stand trial in Winterfell when we retake it fully." Robb's jaw hardened. "Winterfell will see justice enough. Tonight," Bolton dipped head. "As you command, your grace." At sunset, they led Ramsay to the Bailey scaffold. Snow laced the air. Bran's brothers stood in silent ranks. Rickon clutching Shaggy by scruff. Sansa, newly arrived from White Harbor on escort of Ser Davos Seaworth, barred from the spectacle but prayed in September. Catelyn watched from covered walk, eyes glittering with unshed tears for all that violence had stolen. Robb hefted his father's greatsword ice, reforged from captured Valyrian blade, narrower yet still imposing. He recited the old words, "In the name of Eddard of House Stark, who would have bore this duty, I, Robb of House Stark, king in the north, sentence you to die." He raised ice. Ramsay met the blade with manic grin. "Flay your own honor, wolf cub." The sword fell. Head rolled. Snow drank crimson. Silence cracked only by Shaggy's low growl. Bolton closed eyes a moment. Perhaps regret, perhaps calculation. But within his cloak sleeve his fingers stroked a folded parchment. Ramsay's final scribble delivered earlier that day. "The gate is under Nightfort. The dead ride." Bolton slipped it into a hidden pocket. Some truths, he pondered, could be wielded like daggers later. Deepwood Motte smoldered still when Glover men raised new palisade stakes. Asha Greyjoy, shackled yet dignified, watched reconstruction from a holding pen. Lord Galbart visited one morning, voice curt. Your terms arrived. The king replies thus. Yield every raid ship, dismantle rams at Moat Cailin, swear salt and stone to northern peace. Then he will consider your throne claim. Asha smirked. Consider? I'd been told Starks gave honor for honor. Honor burns with wildfire, Galbart growled. We lost good men. So did I, Asha retorted, gesturing across pyres where iron-born corpses smoldered. And they died fighting, not hiding behind green witchfire. Galbart's cheeks reddened, but he bit back retort. Give us ships. We give you father's bones for funeral. Asha's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. Fine, I will sign. Inside she cursed. But a queen needed realm, and realm required life. At dusk, she penned her signature on seal parchment with charcoal. As she dipped finger in wax droplet, she murmured a silent vow to slit Roose Bolton's throat one day for his coward's victory. At the wall, Jon Snow read Theon's raven. Alliance with Spearwives, secret gate, Bolton intrigue, decisions pressed like ice hammers. Maester Aemon tilted his blind head. A gate for the dead must remain shut. Send every spare brother to Nightfort. Jon nodded, turning to Theon. You know Ramsay's mind. How would he move? Through others' skin, Theon answered. He'd make allies by promising what they desire. Might be some low lord or turncloak knight rides even now. Jon gripped saddle pommel. Then we ride faster. He gathered 20 rangers, veterans and fresh alike. Theon insisted on joining. At dawn they galloped west along the wall, hooves striking frozen ground to thunder echoes. Bran's party departed earlier with wildling guides, pressing hard for Nightfort as well. All eyes were turning toward that ancient ruin, last inhabited when Mad King still roared. Nightfort squatted like a charred giant at world's edge, towers hollow, murder holes gaping black. When Bran reached its shadow 5 nights later, moon hid behind scudding banks. Wind moaned through arrow loops. Theon's escort miles behind gave Bran's group headway, trusting summer to scent threat first. They picked across rubble-strewn courtyard where ryegrass poked through ice. Mira led with lantern, Hodder following close, Bran strapped tight. Snow crunched beneath huge boots. The wells beneath Kitchen Keep, Bran whispered, memory of old Nan's tales creeping cold along his nape. There the rat cook served kings their sons baked in pies. Torchlight flickered on soot-black walls. They descended spiral steps into shattered scullery where iron ovens collapsed under their own rust. A stone well yawned near rear wall, capped by rotten planks. Wolf Mother had sent 3 spearwives along. They pried boards free with pickaxes. Cold air rushed outward, smelling of damp grave. A ladder once, Duras muttered, shining lantern down shaft. Nothing but shadow answered. Hodder lowered Bran using rope seat. Below, rough-hewn passage slanted beneath wall into gloom. Bran touched ancient brick slick with rime. It thrummed faintly, like distant waves beneath ice. Rats, Mira warned. Their torches stirred nests. Vermin scattered in squeals. They followed descending ramp maybe 50 yards before it flattened. Carved faces lined walls. Stone direwolves, giants, children of forest? Hard to tell, details eroded. At last they reached an obsidian-rimmed door carved with swirling runes. On its center an inlaid weirwood face, mouth agape as if exhaling winter. No handle, Theon observed, running gloved hand along edge. He and Jon's rangers had arrived, panting mere minutes ago. Summer guided them through courtyard fast as thought. Jojen stepped forward, voice weak but clear. The gate's blood price demands life freely given. Theon stiffened. Meaning, a cut, Jojen said. Not death, hopeful gods, not death. He offered palm. Bran caught his wrist. I'll do it, Theon said. He unsheathed dagger, sliced shallow across his forearm. Blood welled, slid down fingers, dripped onto weirwood mouth. The wooden lips shimmered crimson. Runes glowed faint blue. Ice cracked. Door groaned open, revealing black forest beyond. Fir trees crusted in rime, silver aurora swirling overhead. They stepped into Silent Grove, an enclave lost between sides of the wall, hidden from both realms. Snow there glittered like powdered crystal. At Grove Center stood a heart tree whose bark glowed from inside as though lit by embers. "Children of the forest made this place," Jojen whispered. Hay carved runes that close upon evil, but used wrongly they open. As if summoned, hoofbeats echoed behind. Men burst through gate. Armored riders in pink cloaks, flayed man badges stitched crude. Leading was a gaunt knight with wine-red eyes. Ser Hother Umber called Horsebane, gone missing months earlier, now a Bolton thrall. His sword was black steel etched with pale veins.
Stand Aside, Roter Grault.
Lord Bolton claims this gate to bargain with Winter Kings. "No," Bran said, voice small yet iron. Hother laughed. Jon Snow stepped through doorway, Longclaw bared. "He says no." Ghost loomed white beside him, fangs flashing. Bolton men spurred. Battle erupted under ghost lights.
Dragonglas met steel, Direwolf vervloe.
Bran felt summer's rage surge. He warged instinctively, guiding Wolf through flanks. Mira's net entangled one rider. Theon's short sword punched chainmail. Hother clashed with Jon, black blade versus Valyrian steel.
Sparks Ligloom.
Hother snarled curses about Bolton justice, but Jon's calm parries chipped away. At last Longclaw sheared through gauntlet, severing hand. Hother fell, blood steaming. Bolton men fled, but gate sealed behind them as Weirwood face shut, crushing one straggler's spine. Silence returned, broken only by Jon's ragged breaths. In pale veil of aurora they tended wounds. Jojen knelt before Hearttree, pressed palm to bark. "The beast has become gatekeeper," he murmured, eyes shining. Bran stepped forward, placed hand beside his. In that touch visions cascaded. Swirling snow, red keep throne room knee-deep in ice. A dragon of midnight blue screaming over shattered wall. Robb at Riverrun bedecked in ice-rimmed mail. Asha's fleet clashing against black-sailed krakens. A sword of pale flame burning in darkness. Bran staggered back. Mira caught him. He gasped. "We stop it at the neck. We must raise every torch." Jon wiped blood from brow. "Then we start south tomorrow. Robb will need all the North united." Theon looked at Sealed Gate, then at Bran. "I guarded the realm tonight, little lord. Let me keep doing so." "You will," Bran said softly and clasped his hand. Greyjoy flesh to stark skin, bound by crimson thread dried upon wrist. Above them aurora folded into rippling banners of green and violet, as though the sky unfurled perplexing heraldry for battles not yet joined. Somewhere beyond, White Walkers regrouped, studying secrets now denied. But men, wolves, krakens, crows, and free folk, had glimpsed a way to stand together. They camped beneath the heart tree's glow, warmth seeping from sacred roots. Bran dreamt of a spring where snows melt to reveal seedlings between stones, and in one fragile sprout he saw the future. Pale stem, stubborn, pushing toward unblinking sun. Weeks later, ravens beat furious wings into Riverrun. 5 in the same hour. Robb stalked to Solar, tore seals. One from Jon recounting Nightfort victory. Another from Bran urging union with wildlings. One from Asha accepting all terms. One from Wyman Manderly warning Fry treachery. And one ensigned bearing Bolton's sigil, reading only, "Some doors close, others open. Choose wisely, King of Snow." Robb turned to Grey Wind, pacing. "The War of Crowns is ending," he muttered. "But the War of Night begins." He summoned horns. Orders flew across castle. Rally Karstark remnant, free folk envoys, Manderly levies, and every last dragonglass blade. In Maester's rookery, Catelyn penned missives to distant errands, to Dorne's Sunspear, begging steel and fire. Sansa stitched direwolf banners to new cloaks. Rickon practiced archery with arrows tipped obsidian. Ramsay's head dipped in tar hung above gate, a warning to betrayers. South of Pike, Asha's fleet of half-repaired longships set sail, black sails trimmed in silver wolf. She would sweep drowned men who refused truce, clear sea lanes for food convoys north. On her prow she nailed letter from Bran. A new tide rises. Row with it. Along every shore and hold fast. Rumors spread of walkers, of gates and gods with lights. Some scoffed, others sharpened axes. Yet cattle were slaughtered ahead of frost, grain stockpiled, hearths sealed against dead winds. Winter had not yet peaked, but the realm braced. And in silent grove beneath wall of ice, heart trees glow pulsed slow. Beacon or siren, none could tell. Only Bran Stark in his dreams understood. The tree's light kept one ancient promise, that even in blackest night, a spark endures, waiting for hands willing to guard it. So wolves gathered, krakens bargained, crows watched, and free folk crossed lines drawn by centuries. In halls of Kingsguard and in caves of giants, torches were lit. Across fields dusted white, war horns sounded not of conquest but of survival. Echoing through valleys, carrying a single vow, the long night ends together or not at all. The snows came heavier after the skirmish at Silent Grove, blanketing the north in a hush so complete that even the wolves stepped softer. Days blended into a pale blur. At Castle Black, ravens no longer ventured far for fear their wings might freeze mid-beat. Messages instead traveled by leather-clad riders following crude beacon fires lit at each tower the Night's Watch still manned. Jon Snow stood upon the King's Road parapet with Longclaw riding one hip and the weight of looming winter riding the other, watching those lights wink in and out against the dusk. He listened to the soft creak of the wall as it complained beneath new ice, and he felt, not for the first time, the stir of something beneath the frozen horizon, as though the land itself inhaled. The camp below the wall had grown quickly. Wildling spearwives, rivermen carpenters, a motley clutch of Karstark archers recently pardoned, and 100 Ironborn captured at Deepwood, all labored side by side erecting rough blockhouses of pine. Fire pits glowed inside each half-finished structure, kept alive with found timber and the occasional crate of bituminous coal hauled up from the gift. At the heart of the cluster, Gilly and Old Nan divided food portions into greasy linen squares. Stewed oats thickened with powdered marrow and minuscule shavings of carrot. It was what passed for feast in hard times. Theon Greyjoy oversaw night drill on the eastern flank. His cloak stiff with rime but his voice ringing clear. Recruits hefted dragonglass-dipped pikes until their shoulders went numb. Others practiced setting those pikestaffs in 2s and 3s, overlapping points like a thorn hedge. When one boy, Ben Butterwell, a lanky Tyroshi with mismatched eyes, let his wrists sag, Theon cuffed him lightly with the butt of his spear. "Keep it level, Butterwell," he barked. "The dead have no pity for tired arms." The boy steadied the weapon. A few paces beyond, Lady Asha, chains gone, a Night's Watch lone cloak over her shoulders, watched with arms folded. She had come north days earlier in a cramped wagon, escorted by Glover men. She bore the fresh scars of Bolton wildfire. Pink webs ridged her right forearm and crawled up her throat, but the heat in her eyes outshone them. "They drill like sailors trying to dance," she observed. "They'll learn." Theon did not glance at her. "Fear teaches. Fear also breaks," Asha countered. "You ever lash a mast rope too tight? Snaps the moment hard wind comes." Theon grunted. "Wind's already here. Storms bigger than you think, little brother." Her tone softened to something between warning and affection. "The Kingsmouts set in 2 moons, and Euron's promised the thralls gold and salt wives if they hand him the chair. He's gathering black sails like a crow gathering corpses." Theon glanced up to the wall's white crest. "Let the crow gather. If the dead come south, every ship will burn the same, whether sails bear krakens or stars." Asha's lips twitched. "Maybe you do understand." She stepped closer. "I didn't cross the Bight to spout old quarrels. I came because the north stands where the sea will stand soon enough, between knives and night." Theon turned fully. "Then stand with us now." He extended a gloved hand. After a breath, she clasped it. Snow dusted their joined fingers. Above, Jon called down from the parapet. "Both of you inside. Lord Commander Mormont calls council." The hall they used as council chamber had once been an abandoned builder's workshop perched behind the old smithy. Its ceiling of larch planks bowed under the weight of frost. Now braziers crackled in each corner, and long trestles had been dragged in to form a crooked horseshoe around the central hearth. Jeor Mormont occupied the sturdiest chair, crow-black cloak draped across shoulders like a mantle of dusk. Beside him perched old Maester Eamon, eyes clouded with unseeing fog yet face sharpened by listening. Next sat Robb Stark, flown in from Riverrun only 3 days prior, gray wind pacing outside the door. Across from him, Roose Bolton lounged in a seat of ironwood, fingers folded with studied calm. Great John Umber leaned on the hearth, steam curling from his beard. Ygritte, the red-haired spearwife, stood with arms folded, giving Bolton the sort of look a cat reserves for cornered dogs. Theon and Asha slipped in behind Bran. Seated in a wicker chair near the fire, Summer curled at his feet, and Mira, who stood with spear bowed like a staff. Jon gestured to empty rough stools. Jeor Mormont began. Our rangers report white packs marching by moonlight from Hardhome to the Gorge. We've counted 200 at least. Jon's men slew a score, but more come. He paused. We can no longer defend entire lengths of the wall. Shadow Tower reports numbers falling. Eastwatch holds for now, though seas freeze thicker each dawn. Robb thumped a mailed fist onto the trestle. Then we hold them here at the Nightfort's Sentinel or Castle Black's Gate. It's not so simple, Your Grace, Jon said. They found fissures in the ice, cracks left untended since the days of Joramun. If one White Walker leads them through, we fight a war on both sides of this wall. Bolton's pale eyes gleamed in hearthlight. Then we must seal every fissure and every gate. Bran's voice cut through, the boy lord's tone ghost soft yet iron. Sealing means burying the Black Gate beneath rubble, not just barring doors. Thousands of years ago, the children carved those passages to allow the living safe passage. Destroy them and we're trapped behind our own wall. Safer than letting the dead in, Bolton said. Theon's jaw clenched. He looked toward Bran, remembering red runes aglow. The Black Gate is alive in a way stone walls are not. Break it and you shatter something bigger than any of us. He turned to Bolton. You'd also seal every Raven Eyrie, every rescue route for families fleeing south. Bolton's lips quirked. Casualties of strategy. Great John Umber barked. We need walls, not tombs. Jeor Mormont rapped a wooden mallet. Enough. The Watch will not shatter the Black Gate. He fixed Bolton with a stare formidable as granite. There is talk of your fiery tactics, my lord. Wildfire kills the living as quick as it kills the dead. Bolton lifted slim shoulders. When winter is long enough, every man burns. Robb cut in. The North stands by ice and steel, not wildfire. His gaze shifted toward the others. My scouts bring news that the Neck already feels white raids. Free folk villages burn on both sides of the Green Fork to slow the march, but they need reinforcement. I will ride south tomorrow with Umber, Glover, and Manderley men and meet the Reed folk at Greywater. We'll hold the choke till the wall ready. Jon nodded. I go west to Shadow Tower. We reinforce fissures, dragonglass mines, and bring back every barrel of black snow pitch we can scrounge. Asha slapped palm on table. Crows and wolves cut ice while krakens row. My fleet will escort grain from Sisterton and Bear Isle and smash Hurons if he dares raid. We also ferry dragonglass to each tower. Jeor tapped parchment. Then we commit. Maester Eamon will copy orders by dawn. All voices hushed. The fire popped. Snow drift squeezed through shutter gaps, swirling like white ash. Bran cleared his throat. There is still one gate beyond mortal hands. Robb frowned. Meaning, the gate that lives in each of us. Bran looked to Jojen. Pale but now standing in doorway, Mira steadying him. We must bind ourselves. A vow stronger than iron. The three-eyed crow told me. Only when blood and water mix can winter break. Ygritte cocked head. Blood and water mix fine in a snowdrift. Not that, Jojen rasped. Blood of heroes, water of seas. Unity of Skagosi and Stormlander, of Kraken and Wolf, of Wild One and Watchman. Without that, the gate of men stays shut. Mormont folded arms, brow furrowed. Robb rose, unsheathing a short hunting knife. He sliced palm. Then I swear. He extended hand. Jon followed, blade quick. I swear. Asha stepped without hesitation. Great Jon, Mira, even Bolton, though his cut was shallow, added blood. Ygritte nicked her thumb. They clasped arms over the flame, crimson drops hissing into embers. An odd hush swept the chamber. Bran felt the heart tree far away shiver in answer. Maester Aemon's milky eyes turned toward the warmth. May the old gods and the new honor this union. Dawn broke bruised purple. Robb's column set out first. Umber giants swinging axes over shoulders, Glover scouts flanking on rangy steppe ponies, Manderly crossbowmen marching in 4 tight companies. Rickon climbed the rampart to see them off, Shaggy Dog leaning heavy against his thigh. Sansa stood behind, praying softly. Robb saluted with raised spear as gray wind loped ahead like an arrow loosed. In icy courtyard, Asha supervised loading of wagon loads of flint keg powder and dragonglass onto gigantic sledges to be hauled down the King's Road to Molestown docks and then south by sea. Theon handed her a roll of maps marking grain depots. Keep to deeper water, he warned. Euron's silence draws less draft, but she hunts near reefs. Asha winked. I'll sing him to the watery halls. She clapped Theon's shoulder. Don't die before I bring you beer. He watched her mount, helm glinting like polished night. Sails unfurled beyond Eastwatch piers, wolf along Kraken. Jon rallied his rangers next. Corrin Halfhand's old lieutenants, young Darion with harp slung across back, 6 spearwives volunteers, and Theon, who would serve as envoy if Hardstone passes flared. They rode west along ice shelf, hooves crunching snow crust. Jon's black cloak streamed. Bran remained at Castle Black with Maester Aemon and Jojen, coordinating ravens and sifting dream visions. He pressed quill by lantern till his fingers cramped, charting pattern of walker packs, mapping wildling retreat lines, marking where Manderly barges must dock once White Knife deep iced. Messages flew hourly. 3 nights after the war councils parted, the first true blizzard struck. It came from beyond the shivering sea, a wall of white smothering horizon, carrying shards of black ice that cut flesh through wool. At Deepwood, rebuilding efforts stalled. Timber scaffolds snapped like toothpicks, burying half a dozen Glover carpenters. At Moat Cailin, spearwives lighting signal pyres watched the storm devour night, then glimpsed flickers, blue-white, moving. They rang bells. The marsh folk rose with torches and vanished into reeds. South of the neck, Robb's column slogged into sleet sharpened by sideways wind. Tracks disappeared. Horses lathered with icicles. Great Jon cursed until his lips cracked crimson. Near Greywatch Tower they spotted the first sign of Walker incursion. A line of spearwives strung upside down from pine trunks, innards frozen as glass ribbons. Fresh. Snowfall muffled but could not mask the hack of leather straps still swinging. Robb dismounted, jaw tight.
Dig graves.
Burn what wood we can. Galbart Glover clutched a charred brand. Burn them? We'll need every stick come deeper freeze. Robb's voice cut ragged. Leave them hang, they rise against us. Burn. They stacked pine on raw snow, lay bodies gently. Gray wind howled. The pyre lit and flared despite driving wind, fueled by pine resin pockets. Smoke billowed charcoal thick, curling skyward until the storm devoured it. Umber scouts rode ahead and returned pale. Ice spiders big as hounds roam East Ridge, one said. Tracks heavy. Robb weighed choices. Chase spiders and risk his vanguard, or push to Greywater Rendezvous. Duty pulled like twin horses. He chose to press onward, but doubled the rearguard. That night they camped in glen of shattered birch, setting dragonglass stakes around perimeter. The storm thundered overhead, midnight lit sporadically by blue flashes where sheet lightning danced inside the blizzard. At Shadow Tower, Jon's detachment labored in whiteout. They drove iron wedges into fissure mouths, packed gravel, and poured bituminous pitch. Builders ignited pitch. Fire roared blue, sealing cracks to molten glass, then cooled to unforgiving black glaze. Rangers posted watch as sparks sprayed. Some dared hope the act might hold against white assaults. Others whispered that fire could as easily beckon the night. 2 days into the ceiling, distant horns blew 3 long, foreboding tones. Whites approaching from north. Jon rallied archers to the tower's broken rampart. 20 figures lurched through swirling gusts, skin luminous. Behind them a walker rode a pale elk, antlers coated in glistening ice. The walker raised spear of translucent crystal. "Loose!" Jon cried. Arrows knifed wind, shattering whites to fragments. The walker's elk reared, hooves barely bending snow, then bounded away into gale. Jon felt chills seep through fur. Victory enough for night, not yet dawn's. When Theon and Darion returned from a scouting run, they carried grim news. The Dreadfort's far riders had been sighted among walker patrols, their pink cloaks shredded to ribbons but still showing sigils. Bolton's men taken or turned, Jon surmised. Roose must know. Or he doesn't care, Theon muttered. Some men wager any coin if they think they can buy winter's mercy. Back at Castle Black, Bran slept rarely. Dreams came too thick. In one he roamed the crypts beneath Winterfell and saw Lioness' statue weeping blood that froze into glass roses. In another he soared above King's Landing as a great weirwood root speared through the Red Keep rubble, splitting the Iron Throne into 1,000 shards. He tasted ashes and bile and woke choking. Summer nuzzled until calm returned. Jojen sat vigil, scribbling incoherent scrawl onto hides. Constellations, equations, threads of names crossing like spiderwebs. Maester Aemon attempted to interpret but gave up. Green dreams speak in riddles few can decipher. Bran traced one line Jojen repeated. Storm of swords, dawn of shadows. Under it a crude painting of 2 swords meeting. One blazing white, the other blacker than pitch. The boy lord rolled his chair to rookery. He dictated letter after letter to be sent south. To Stannis Baratheon at Dragonstone, asking for obsidian. To Daenerys Targaryen rumored across the sea, begging dragon's flame. To the Citadel at Old Town, demanding parchments on Dawn, the sword of morning. We need every blade and every tale, Bran told Sam, who wrote through trembling fingers. Snow hammered rafters. Gusts howled like ancestral wolves. Night deepened. Euron crows I struck before Asha's fleet could intercept fully. He came from the northwest, where wind smelled of brine and corpse rot, sailing under a dusk sky streaked turbid green. Silence's black hull cut water seamlessly. Euron's men hurled casks of ravening fire that burned blue even on snow-cooled deck boards. 2 of Asha's escort cogs erupted. The Kraken Wolf flagship, Northern Roar, veered starboard to rake Euron's flank. Asha stood upon quarterdeck, shouting orders, hair lashed by sleet. They exchanged volleys until Silence's ram hammered the Roar's starboard bow, cracking oak. Asha personally led boarders, cutlass sweeping arcs. Amid chaos, she sighted Euron striding across gangplank with smile wide as ocean, moonstone eye patch glinting. He wielded a strange blade of smoky glass, alive with shifting lights. When he cleaved a deckhand, wound edges froze instantly. Little niece, he crooned, you bargain with snow while the true Kraken sups on storms. Asha spat. Their blades met. Her steel rang, but glass absorbed impact, singing low. She parried thrice. 4th strike cracked her guard. Blood spattered her brow. She ducked under his sweep, drove elbow into gut, pivoted to slash at leg. Glass sword chipped decks. Each chip birthed sliver whites that scuttled spider-like at Asha's boots. She stamped them with iron heel but more crawled. Borrowed toys of the dead? Asha taunted, voice rasping. You'll drown same.
Euron Laughead.
I drown daily. He lunged again, yet sudden horn blasts rolled across water. From north sailed a line of Manderley galleys under torches, dragging nets of blazing pitch that they flung over Silence's stern. Flames raced rigging.
Euron cursed, retreated.
Asha pressed, her crew driving Silence away. When she severed gangplank with an axe, Euron's men tumbled into freezing surf. Silence limped off under smear of burning sail. Asha's own ship barely floated, but she ordered survivors onto the Manderley convoy. Wounded taken below decks, she stood bloodied and breathed frigid air. Kraken humbled, but not yet slain. At the neck, Robb found Greywater watch afloat amid reed fields as ever, Jojen's father Howland Reed greeting him from a half-sunk tower walkway. Howland wore Reed's bound to shoulders, crocodile fong earrings. He bowed shallow. "The North's mouth opens," he said. "Dead whisper through barrows. Will the wolf stand?" Robb met his gaze. "We stand. Stagnant water breeds disease. We'll churn it." Howland nodded. "Then cross, but step where I step, else drown." He guided the army across causeways of brush mats and stone pilings half-submerged. Umber giants cursed mud but followed. Reed folk lit driftwood fires along banks. At night Robb sat with Howland, planning trap lines, stilt towers, pitfalls filled with obsidian shards. "We've used frog spears against dead before," Howland said. "But they rise again when spear pulled. Dragonglass leaves them quiet." Gray wind prowled camp perimeter each dusk, returning with white fragments. Fires burned non-stop, reeking of wet char. One pre-dawn, horns wailed. Whites pressed out of fog, eyes sapphire. Reed nets entangled some, manderly bolts felled others. But a walker rode among them on stag of bone, sowing terror. Its spear impaled a Glover bannerman and threw body back alive but dying. Robb and Great John met the rider head-on. Gray wind lunged first, locking jaws on spectral stag's leg. The walker swung blade of frost glass to sever direwolf, but Greatjohn's great axe caught the blow, shattering both weapons. Frost shards exploded, lacerating cheeks. Robb thrust dragonglass dagger into Walker's chest. Creature screamed, shards of ice collapsed, blue flame extinguished. Whites faltered, then scattered like leaves before stormwind. At cost of 70 men, they held threshold. Robb stood among corpses, breathing ragged. Gray wind limped but lived. He clasped Umber's shoulder. The giant grin stained crimson. "First blood for Dawn," Great John roared. Hope flickered in every eye. Across the wall, John's garrison discovered new fissure. They called it Widow's Tear, running 40 feet down inner ice, wide enough for a man to crawl. It lay a mile east of Hoarfrost Hill, disguised by windrift. Theon ventured in with 2 torches. He found faint prints shaped like forked hooves, white walker mounts perhaps. Then deeper prints of bare human feet but with toes fused in pairs. The sight unsettled him more than ice spiders. They sealed Widow's Tear with pitch and stone, but Theon could not shake image of fused toes. That night he dreamed he stood on Pike's shore with burning pitch inside mouth, spitting flaming tar into sea where silhouettes emerged, men without feet at all, sliding on stumps across water. He woke drenched. Outside tent, hush blanketed waste. Snow like powder stars cascaded. In far distance, aurora pulsed. Darion strummed harp, voice low. "O'er Father's keep when shadows creep, we'll raise our hearts of flame." Song drifted lonely. Theon whispered along until tears froze beneath lashes. At Riverrun, Sansa wove torque scarves for Karstark riders while Catelyn managed grain ledgers. Manderly barges under Asha's protection delivered salt cod, oats, barrels of crab oil. Ser Davos Seaworth arrived with news. Stannis pledged ships to patrol Blackwater Bay and send obsidian shipments once mines at Dragonstone reopened. He also carried parchment sealed with red wax. Melisandre's letter to Bran, lines of prophecy swirling like smoke. Bran studied it by lamplight, recognized half the symbols from Dreamroot. He penned reply urging safe passage for red priests to Castle Black. They knew ways to conjure living fire. When Bolton's ravens arrived, one for Roose himself, Catelyn intercepted copies. They contained lists of names. Minor lords, merchants, hedge knights sworn to Bolton by quiet pact. At the bottom, sword shipments to Widow's Watch scheduled next new moon. Catelyn confronted Roose in Great Hall by candlelit gloom. "You are men while claiming loyalty," she accused. Roose's eyes flickered. "I prepare contingency. A responsible lord. Contingency or treason?" Catelyn's voice trembled. Bolton remained placid. "If winter breaks our lines, there must be second front." She realized then he meant to claim Winterfell under guise of salvation if Robb fell. She could not prove yet. She told him she would share letter with Robb. Bolton bowed. Midnight found him in his chambers writing more missives, sealed with blank wax to mask hand. His steward, a thin man called Steelshanks, dispatched them by silent crow. Weeks blurred. Storms grew near constant. John's rangers scouted Fist of the First Men, abandoned now, found a ring of standing stones each etched fresh with runes shaped like flayed men. Theon recognized Bolton sign twisted into White Walker script. They burned the site, but symbols remained carved into stone beneath soot. At Castle Black, Bran sensed shift. Dreams darkened to obsidian blackness shot with red comets. He summoned Theon via Raven. When Theon arrived days later, Bran met him in the Godswood. "The fissures, they're not just cracks," Bran said. "They're veins. Something in the wall wakes." Theon touched Ice Trunk. "You think Bolton's runes feed it? Maybe lure or guide." Bran traced frost. "A lever. If the wall falls, Nightfort Gate means nothing." "What do we do?" Theon whispered. Bran inhaled pine-sharp air. "We must reforge the wall. Bind it with dragon fire." "Dragons?" Theon scoffed. "We have none. Yet," Bran corrected. In dream, he'd seen 3 dragons. 2 full-grown, 1 hatchling shadow in egg. "We need Daenerys." Theon eyed him. "Across sea, warring slavers and gulf storms." "How?" Bran's gaze turned distant. "A storm crow flies faster than Raven." Behind them, Sam emerged panting. "Message from Eastwatch. Davos sails north with glass and something else. An Eastern wizard." "Red Priest," Bran said. "Good. First spark." On Windswept Hill at the Neck, Robb's army met host of Manderley reinforcements, resplendent in blue and white, banners spotted with fresh snow. Ser Marlon Manderley greeted Robb with bow, presenting crates of silver coins minted with direwolf on one side, Merman on other. "New currency for new alliance," he said. Robb smiled wearily. "Let's buy dawn with blood first." That night, Lady Meage Mormont marched in, leading 80 she-bears in heavy mail. She tossed Robb a scrap of Bolton pink cloak sewn to human skin. "Found in marsh. Enemy leaves trails." Robb set watchfires bigger, hammered stout posts into muck. Greywater's causeways bristled with obsidian stakes, designated kill lanes. Howland Reed wove nets out of freshwater kelp weighted with iron rings. In War Tent, they studied Jojen's crude maps for Walker approach vectors. Coldwater Flats, Dead Man's Bog, Barrow Path. They posted horns and drums at each. On day 44 of campaign, the main horde arrived. First came icy fog seeping between rushes. Sun vanished. Then silhouettes. Hundreds, maybe thousands, whites of all shapes. Some crawled on hands, spines broken. Others rode skeletal horses. White walkers glided among ranks, eyes blazing cold stars. Loping before them were wolf-shaped whites stitched of shadow, muzzles dripping frost. Reed horns blew thrice, Manderley crossbows loosed, arrows sheathed in dragon glass zipped, whites shattered, umber pike walls braced impact. At center, Robb and Grey Wind charged a walker pair. Long claw of dragonglass in Starklord's fist, wolf teeth ripping bone. Frost spiders swarmed trenches but sank into reed pits flooded with pitch, torches tossed in. Ali Mormont's she-bears bellowed war cries, hacking at undead giants whose limbs regrew from drifting ice dust. Bears plied obsidian-tipped axes. Wet snow turned red. Battle raged 2 days, broken into skirmishes by nights of blizzard swirl. On third dawn, horizon flickered orange, Beacon Hill ablaze, wildfire barrels hurled by Bolton deserters now enthralled to walkers. Green columns whooshed down causeways, igniting Manderley supply wagons. Robb wheeled to respond, but Messenger arrived breathless. Marshgate breached, walkers inside camp. He split forces. Grey Wind with umber giants to push wildfire barrels back, while Reed skirmishers and Manderley knights fell back to inner palisade. Panic threatened. Robb cut through by sheer presence, shouting, "This is our fun. They drown here." It nearly ended at dusk when a White Walker commander strode over exploded reed bank wielding spear of smoking glass, each footstep freezing water to crystal. He pointed at Robb. Ice rippled toward the king, fracturing ground. Robb leapt aside onto higher causeway, turned, hurled dragonglass spear borrowed from Mira. Shaft splintered on impact, leaving shard lodged near Walker's throat. Creature hissed, stumbled. Gray wind slammed into its back. Wolf jaws bit, frost erupted. Walker disintegrated in avalanche of shards. The horde faltered. Wildfire barrels still burned, but Manderley men rolled snowmounds onto flames, dousing. When night settled, undead retreated north, leaving field of glittering limbs. Robb surveyed devastation. 200 of his died, but neck held. He looked east where faint glow pulsed on horizon, Castle Black's beacon. Unity held. At Castle Black, the Red Priest arrived at last, cloaked in crimson lined with sable. He called himself Benero's chosen brother, Makoro, eyes like hot coals. He carried casks of obsidian powder and scrolls inked in Valyrian glyphs. In Lord Commander's hall he faced Bran, Jon, and Theon. Azor Ahai comes, Makoro intoned. Born of salt and smoke, he shall bear Lightbringer. Jon stiffened. You claim Stannis. Stannis is shadow of flame, not flame. Makoro's gaze flicked to Bran. Green seer glimpses true. Bran met his stare. In his mind he saw a dagger of dawn steel, forged in heartfire. Lightbringer is an act, not a sword. Requires sacrifice. Many will burn, Makoro agreed. But first the wall must be blessed by fire that does not warm. Lord's fire. Jon frowned. Wildfire.
Wildfire dies kohlt, Makoro hissed.
Lord's fire lives. He produced a small vial containing thick crimson fluid. Dragon's blood. Gasped. From Daenerys? Bran asked. Makoro bowed. Her dragons shed scale and blood in fight over Slaver's Bay. Priests gathered drops cooled in sand. Theon exhaled. Dragon blood at the wall. Makoro uncorked vial. An ember scent filled hall. He approached heart tree sapling Jon had planted in courtyard soil hauled from Winterfell, its white bark now tinged faint red by harsh cold. Makoro dabbed blood along trunk. It sizzled, carving runes that glowed. Wind gusted through open gate. Frost retreated a foot around trunk. Jon touched sword pommel. Hummed. Makoro closed flask. When dragon brothers fly north in flesh, walls runes strengthen. Till then, the blood remembers flame. Bran rolled his chair forward, pressing hand to carved rune. Heat pulsed into his palm. Pleasant, not scalding. And he felt presence of something old stirring, mingling with Weirwood's whisper. Summer barked softly. First spark, Bran murmured. Then horns rang 3 blasts from East Rampart. Ranger burst in. Large host across the ice lake. Unknown banners. Theon and Jon exchanged looks. They rushed to parapet. Through spyglass, Jon glimpsed ranks of armored men with black sunburst sigils marching under tattered red banners. Black fires, Theon muttered. But sigil was not 3-headed dragon. It was a black sun crowned by flayed man. Bolton again. Roose had moved. Jon spat white breath. He comes to claim gate. Theon tightened cloak. Or burn it. Jon turned to Bran. Prepare circle. We may fight men before dead. Bran nodded, eyes shadowed. In Riverrun, Catelyn marshaled new levy. Gold cloaks of kings landing refugees who pled allegiance after Tyrell Lannister plots collapsed. Davos oversaw shipments of obsidian from Dragonstone. Stannis himself wrote, claiming Red Woman foresaw victory only if North and South fought as one. Catelyn allowed Davos to set up kiln furnaces smelting dragonglass arrowheads by thousands. Sansa studied swordplay under Ser Roderick's cousin, trying not to flinch at memories. She wore chain shirt beneath gown. Lady Lyra Mormont sparred with her. Their clashing blades rang bright. Fear cuts deeper than swords, Lyra reminded. I have been cut too many times by fear, Sansa answered. She parried, riposted. Lyra smiled. Rickon, meanwhile, practiced Ravenspeak, sending coded taps in wire tension drums to Moat Cailin. Children no longer sheltered behind songs. Roose Bolton marched with 3,000 men. flayed men, carhold deserters, and sellswords from Pentos wearing heavy fur. He advanced not along King's Road but through White Knife ice flats. He reached Frostfang Gorge by new moon. Scouts sighted Castle Black Torches distant, but Roose halted at ridge where old watchtower ruins stood. Steelshanks approached. Night patrol ahead. Roose smiled thinly. Signal them. Show them our banner of truce. Crown in snow. Liveried men waved lanterns. Night's watch patrol approached. Roose greeted them with curtness, offered kegs of mead as travel gift. Beneath nicety, his men measured wall footings with eyes. Lord Commander Mormont expects me? Roose asked politely. The patrol leader stammered. We had no word but will escort. Roose nodded. Behind mask of courtesy, he calculated cracks Theon had not yet sealed. Lines of sorcery Makoro's fire did not reach. He needed only open one fissure long enough. His parchment from Silent Crow described blood sacrifice. Pink blood, flayed. He looked at his men. Night fell deeper. Within Black Keep, Bran sensed treachery. He asked Theon to join him at Silent Grove Gate. Under Hearttree glow, Bran placed hand on bark, letting dreams seep into waking. He saw Roose standing before fissure swirling with shadows. Roose's hand dipped into pouch, scattering pieces of pale skin like petals. Ice cracked, white surged. Bran gasped. Theon gripped shoulders. What? Bolton is key for dead. Bran wheeled chair away. We must stop him before gate he opens. Where? Southeast fissure, Widow's Tear reborn. He'll break what you sealed. Jon arrived, breath fogging. Bolton camp within crossbow range. He sues for parley at dawn. No, Bran said. It's trick. They formed plan. Theon, Mira, and Jojen would slip into fissure tunnels they knew and fortify from inside. Jon would meet Bolton with parley guard to stall. Ygritte's wildling archers flank ridges. Asha's fleet, now approaching Eastwatch, would fire signal torches if Ironborn saw undead along shoreline. Before dawn they moved. Snow fluttered down, gentle, betraying nothing.
Jon met rozen beneath ridge.
Bolton's pale eyes betrayed surprise seeing Jon, not Mormont. Lord Snow, he greeted smoothly. I come bearing galleons. Grain, spears, arms for winter. Jon forced courtesy. Generous, yet your banners sow doubt. I fly only Bolton, Roose murmured. Stark may share if he chooses. Your bastard hung above Riverrun. One rotten branch pruned. Bolton's lips didn't move from faint smile. They parleyed as dawn rose gray. Meanwhile, Theon and Mira squeezed through maintenance shaft into fissure chamber. There they found two Bolton sellswords chipping pitch glaze with pickaxes. Theon shot one through neck with short bow. Mira felled second with spear butt. Jojen hurried to pour sealed cask of dragon blood across fissure lip. The membrane of ice drank crimson. Lines of runes flared like stars. Ceiling cracked deeper. Outside, Ygritte's archers tracked Bolton outriders creeping toward ridge. She loosed arrow, outrider fell. Bolton's eyes narrowed. He withdrew graciously. Jon's guard stiffened, but Bolton only bowed, turned, and left. Yet through blizzard, war horns shrieked, 3 blasts from east. Undead column approached Bolton's camp from backside. Whites tore into tents. In confusion, Bolton's men fought living and dead alike. Jon raced back to wall. Ygritte's archers rained obsidian shafts. Mira emerged with Theon, announcing success. But fissures further east thundered as whites pressed. Bolton's line collapsed. Some men fled toward wall, begging refuge. Jon allowed them through small sally gate after disarming. Roose himself, blood spattered, reached ridge accompanied by steelshanks. White walkers cut off retreat path. Roose turned to Jon, eyes pleading for once. Jon weighed duty. Then he lowered rope ladder. Bolton climbed, breath clouding. Atop rampart, Jon ordered him bound. Roose did not protest. Below, whites overwhelmed remainder. The column then veered east, bypassing wall where runes glowed new crimson. They retreated into storm. Night watchmen cheered faint. Battle won? Perhaps. Yet brand new war not near done. In dream that evening, He saw Euron's glass blade sink into a leviathan of ice, forging pact with entity faceless and old as winter. He saw dragons wheeling above field of black flame, saw sword of dawn white as morning star, raised by a woman with scarlet hair, saw Theon standing at gate of bone, holding torch that never dies. He woke, heart racing. He called Sam. Send ravens. We need east answered now. Sam's quill scraped parchment. To Daenerys Stormborn, to Stannis of houses Baratheon and Targaryen, to Nymeria Princess of Dorne. When messages flew, Bran rolled to parapet. Dawn cracked horizon rosy. Wolf howled. Sea ice groaned below. He thought of Ned Stark's words passed by many tongues. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. Bran understood now. Sentences are spoken in many tongues. Steel, fire, blood, and dreams. Swords come in many shapes. Dragonglass shards, wildfire jars, hearts brave enough to stand before ancient night. He laid palm to frozen stone. Somewhere far, a dragon stirred. Somewhere nearer, a kraken set sail again. Somewhere everywhere, men and women looked skyward to a light they could barely imagine. But Bran imagined he'd seen an ember at dawn. And if an ember, why not flame? All that was left was to keep fanning until the sun itself rose. So he whispered into wind, together or not at all. The wind carried it down Wall's face, across Neck's marshes, over King's Road ruins, across salty channels, into every waiting ear. And because the wind is older even than winter, it carried his vow true, threading hearts, stoking sparks. Thus the long night gathered, and thus the realm answered, forging chorus of beating drums, clashing steel, crackling flame, and quiet prayers breathed into frost. Whether it would suffice, no dream could assure. But the dreamer of wolves believed, and that belief, like the wall itself, held. For now,